It is 9 o'clock, and I call to order the September 26th special magistrate proceeding for the City of Daytona Beach. My name is Robert Riggio. I am the special magistrate at this proceeding, and I will be hearing the matters that come before me today. The procedure is fairly simple. When your case is called, if you would come up to the podium on my left, it's probably on your right, and state your name, and at that point you will be sworn in by the court, by our proceeding clerk, since you will be giving sworn testimony. There are four lien reviews and 10 cases today, which we should get out of here in fairly short order, so that the cases will be, unless I hear otherwise, handled in the order on which they appear on the agenda. The second thing is, are there any announcements?
No, sir.
Okay. Right, now we get to the approval of the meeting minutes. And at this time, I'm going to announce that I had approved the August 16, 2023 minutes, and am providing the clerk of this proceeding with a copy of that, or with the original of that signed set of minutes. I'm also going to announce that I have signed the August 22nd, 2023 minutes, and am also providing those to the proceeding clerk. So we'll get that out of the way. Is there any oh, okay, we've already gone through that. All right, at this time, it would be good to have the city staff who will be presenting any testimony this morning come forward to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right. Now let's proceed forward with the lien reviews. Lien Review 1, RTL 07-22-151, 539 Mark Avenue. Property owner Craig D. Conway.
Could you state your name, please?
Alana Smith with Cobb Cole, 149 South Ridgewood Ave, Daytona Beach.
Thank you.
All right. And
Dr. Carl Wexford, Daytona Beach.
okay, well, sir, if you would like to begin by, or actually, since this is really your proceeding, because you are the one who was the applicant asking for a reduction of the lien amount, if you could state your.
Well, Mr. Magistrate, I believe they do have an agreement.
Oh, you have an agreement. Oh, yeah. Okay, then we don't have to go through all that. Speed things up a little bit. Sir, if you would like to tell me what the.
A couple of weeks ago, we did meet via email with the attorney representing the client, and we offered $3,500 for the reduction to $3,500, which they accepted.
Okay.
That's the city's recommendation.
That's your recommendation? Okay. I don't see a problem with that. I would note one thing. No, actually, when I went through and added up your figures, you were a little off. I came up with a figure that was $1,571 more than what was stated there. So you've put a significant amount of, your clients put a significant amount of money into this property, and I assume that the property is up to snuff now?
In compliance and passed its last rental inspection.
Okay. Well, therefore, I have no problem with that reduction. And therefore, in case RTL 07-22-151, property owner Craig D. Conway, property at 539 Mark Avenue, I hereby order the lien in that case be reduced to the amount of $3,500, subject to being paid within 30 days, or the fine will revert back to the original amount. And as I always say in these proceedings, if there is any problem, please contact the city attorney or someone with the city staff to let them know, because this is a conditioned 30 days in which to bring this lien to an end. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to lien review number 2. Cases RTL 0820-104, property at 367 Fordham Road, property owner U.S. Bank Trust, North NA trustee. There is a lien with interest plus all of the other stuff that gets tacked on, currently in the amount of $17,296.86.
Yes, sir. I believe Jerry Westfall is appearing via Zoom. Ah, there we go. Could you state your name, please? Can't hear you.
Jerry Westfall?
That's better. Thank you.
Much better. And could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Reckenzone?
Yes, sir. We have an agreement that was made to reduce it down to $5,000.
Ms. Westfall?
Yes,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And is that agreeable to you or your client?
Yes, they were very thankful.
Okay. All right. And again, I take it there was a significant amount of money put into the property to bring it back up to snuff?
Yes, sir. We put in all new lawn, we sodded the whole lawn, we put in a whole new irrigation system. We corrected the fence that was too low. We got the pool back to good condition.
All right. Then that's acceptable to me. And therefore, with lien review 2, case number RTL 0820-104, property at 367 Fordham Road, property owner U.S. Bank Trust, NA trustee. I hereby order the lien in that case be reduced to the amount of $5,000, subject to being paid within 30 days, or the fine will revert back to the original amount. You understand that you have 30 days in which to pay it, or it goes back to what it was before?
Yes, I'll pay it and they can pay me back.
Okay, and if you run into any problem, please contact the city attorney or the city staff or whoever your contact person is. Make sure that they are aware if there's a problem.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Lien review 3, 537 Pelican Bay Drive, case number RTL 042332, property owner Kurt Irving Taylor and Stacy Taylor.
I believe they're also appearing. There we go. Could you state your name, please? Sir, can you state your name, please? Oh, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Kurt and Stacy Taylor?
Great.
That's much better. I
Okay.
hear you now.
Thank you.
Could you raise your right hands, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Domingo, has something been worked out here, or?
We did have a meeting with Mr. and Mrs. Taylor regarding the request for a reduction of the lien fine, and we're not able to come to an agreement with what was being requested of the owners. Today, as it stands, the city is stating that we will consider a reduction of the lien fine in an amount of $4,500 for the running fine on this property.
Okay. All right. And you mean a reduction?
A reduction down to $4,500.
Okay. All right. Mr. Taylor, this is your application to the city or your request, so if you could please state the basis for why you think it should be reduced, I assume further?
Yes, sir. I'll try to make a long story short. Last year is when this started, and we had a very unique leak from the storms on our sliding glass door, which is really what prevented us from getting this rental license going. And through multiple contractors, nobody could figure it out. And when we had contractors, they didn't show up, or they took weeks and weeks to come out. And when we finally found a contractor, he said he could fix it, and he couldn't get it going. And then he got COVID, and that took time, and then the holidays set in. I guess what I'm trying to say is this took forever, and that was all of last year, the ending part of last year, which got into this year. And finally, when we found somebody that could actually fix it, we got that part done. Everything else was done for the license, or to get the license, except one item, and that was a fence that was between the neighbor and us. And this was roughly around May, and I think that's when the lien started, was May 23rd. That's when we were being hit with the $100 a day. And by the end of May, I was gonna have my son just tear down that fence and say, we just have to tear it down, we'll pass the inspection and we'll move on. But we came to find out after talking with the neighbor, because we let the neighbor know we were gonna tear it down. The neighbor had dogs, and so I was conflicted at that point, because we could have had everything all set up and ready to go by the end of May. And then I called Miss Barnes to talk with her about this, and we kind of came to the conclusion that let's see if we can help the neighbor, and we'll kind of go from there. So we talked with the neighbor, and then we found out that the neighbor hired somebody, a contractor, to actually put a whole brand new fence around their house. And so we were waiting for the proper paperwork to give to Temanga to show the city that the paperwork was going. But of course that took forever to get any kind of paperwork from the neighbor. And then the neighbor came back after weeks and weeks of talking with her, trying to get this going, that she said that the land survey they did showed the fence on her land. So there was so much going on with this neighbor with this fence, and that's why May led into June, and June led into, well, August, until it got to the point to where I just told my kid, we have got to get something done here instead of relying on the neighbor. And so we got a couple missionaries out with our son, and he was able just to patch the fence up so we could pass the inspection. And when the inspector came out, we passed it. So I guess what we're trying to say is we have been trying our best to get this whole thing fixed and comply with the county. It has been nonstop pitfalls between contractors, and finally, when we got everything fixed, then we had to worry about the neighbor, and that took forever. So we, in good faith, we were trying to be good neighbors and help out the neighbor with their dogs. In hindsight, I could have just torn down the fence or something and had it all done, but we didn't go that route. And I guess that's why when the lien started on the 23rd, we would have had everything done by the end of May. It's just, in good faith, we were trying to help out the neighbors. And that's why we're asking for for a reduction because we didn't ignore you guys. We were doing the best we can, and it's just, it was hard. It was very hard. I think
Okay.
that about sums it up.
Okay. Ms. Tomango, I'm looking at the minutes of the meeting of May 23rd on the day I imposed the fine. I mean, I've heard about the fence, I've heard about the door leaking, and apparently the door may have been fixed by then, as I believe Mr. Taylor is testifying to. But you said there are life safety issues of smoke detectors in the bedrooms, the damaged fencing, which we're hearing about, missing screens, and landscaping violations. I'm focused on the smoke detectors and the missing screens. I mean, those are things I assume were noted earlier.
Yes, there was the initial rental inspection that actually took place on April the 28th of 2023, where those items were documented as violations that were on site at the property. I would also like to add that there were attempts previously to do inspections at the property with conflicts with scheduling. I did initially try to arrange for this rental inspection to happen on the dates of November 28th of 2022, where I went on site and didn't receive an answer at the door. I did have phone contact with the Taylors that day, who informed me that, their son was just not answering the phone and not answering the door. We rescheduled January 31st of 2023. Of course, this is the beginning of the new year, and as Mr. Taylor was stating, we had communication previously about some items that he informed me were damaged and under repair at that time. So we were able to make the next inspection date for January 31st of 2023. When I went on site, the tenant's son was there, the owner's son was there, and told me that he had just simply forgotten about the inspection appointment. And then we rescheduled again for February 9th of 2023, in which on that day I received a voicemail message from Mr. Taylor just simply stating that the property was not ready for inspection at that point. So there were attempts to try and get this property into compliance prior to sending it to hearing. And at the point that the property was referred to hearing, we were able to schedule and get a rental inspection completed on April the 28th with those failed results that you're currently addressing.
Ms. Tomango, were there tenants at this property?
When I was at the property, no, but I did receive information from the owner and his son when this case first opened. It was as a result of a complaint called in that they were renting out rooms to people, and there was a complaint about a room that didn't have an emergency escape of some sort that they were renting, that someone called in. And when I went out to the property on August 18th of 2022, I spoke directly with Mr. Taylor and his son, and they did inform me that they were in fact renting the property out to students at Embry-Riddle.
Okay. Sir, do you have anything to respond?
Oh, yes, the reason why it took so long is that it was mainly that wall that we couldn't have the inspection done earlier because it just came back to we could never find anybody to fix that wall. That's what took the longest to be able to do. But as far as the screens go and the smoke detectors, and we had all that stuff done very fast. It was the wall and the fence that held us up.
Well, sir, my understanding is that it had been rented out in April of 2023. Is that 2023? Would I be correct in that?
First heard of it being rented,
Yes.
confirmed by the owner in August 18th of 2022.
Correct, but I'm saying at the hearing on April 2023, I'm still hearing about missing smoke detectors. That's
Yes,
a
sir.
$10 item in a big box
Yes,
store.
sir.
That should be, I mean, almost everybody knows that is critical in any type of situation like this. So after hearing the testimony, Mr. Taylor, I believe the city is being very generous to you with the 5,000. I'm amenable to ruling in that regard. Did you say a reduction to 5,000?
To $4,500.
To 4,500.
Yes.
Okay. However, I am not amenable to reducing it to anything less. So it's your decision. Either we leave it as it is, or we reduce it to 4,500.
Okay, we can't pay that, so how would we, is there a way we can make payments?
Mr. Magistrate, I can address that. Anthony Jackson, attorney for the City of Daytona Beach. You will get an invoice, and you'll have 30 days to pay it. It's what we generally do, and if it's not paid in 30 days, it reverts back. So if alternatively, and that's something I'd have to talk to staff and see what they're willing to do, they can allow you additional time. Ultimately, what will happen is what has already happened, which is you have a lien that's attached, and it will remain attached to the property until it's paid. So it would just be an existing encumbrance against the property as well as against the owner. So if the property is in your name, any other property that you own in Volusia County will also have that lien attached. Now, let me ask the staff as to the additional time. I will ask them about that. Is there, that's a question for y'all. Okay, I've been informed by the staff that we do have a mechanism that allows for payments, which they're willing to agree to up to 90 days. I don't know how that works for you guys, but that's what we're willing to do. With the online payment system, you will be able to pay in increments and ultimately need to have it paid in 90 days. Or at least that's our recommendation to the magistrate, or have it revert to the original amount.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure. Go ahead.
When we had our inspectors meeting about a month ago, they were recommending a fine of about $2,000 on this. So I'm begging if we can at least go back down to that, so we can we did our best we could to make this happen. So I just don't want to be I don't know. I'm just begging if we can go back down to that, please.
Mr. Ridgey.
I'm going to leave that with the city because my feeling is that simple, critical things need to be addressed. And I'm not going to start overlooking things like smoke alarms. If you're renting out a premises, you can go out and buy a $10 smoke alarm, and that doesn't have to be there. The other things, I mean, when you buy a house, typically you get a survey, and the survey will show whether there's a fence on it or not. So, I mean, a lot of these things are things that I think most people could easily have overcome and found out if the fence is on the neighbor's property or theirs, because surveyors always show that on a survey. So, if you are agreeable to the terms as Mr. Jackson stated, then yes, I would be willing to reduce the amount to $4,500, but I'm not going to go any further.
I have something I need to say. Do you mind?
Please say it.
So when we received the property, it was being rented to Embry-Riddle students, and it was in really bad shape, like super bad shape. And I took basically my husband's retirement and fixed it up to make it livable. And I put fire alarms in each of the rooms. The only place the fire alarms weren't, I guess, was, there were some in the halls that I didn't know needed to be done, but there were fire alarms in each of the rooms. And the floors were redone, the paint was redone, there was just so much stuff that went from really bad conditions to livable. It was not livable before we moved in there, and it had been being rented to Embry-Riddle students before we bought the house. So it's surprised, like with all the work that I put in, I'm surprised that there's still, there was still any issues, but as soon as we found out what needed to be done, we immediately did those. We never opened the windows, I guess, so we didn't realize there were screens, but I had smoke alarms in every room. She said we had to put a couple in the halls. That was it.
And we got the screens done immediately, when we found out they needed to be there, which we didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
So when she asked us to do something, we jumped on it as fast as we could. As a matter of fact, our son did all the screens himself.
Mr. Mingo.
Just stating that I did not have a chance to go back out to the property until August to complete the entire reinspection, in part due because of, as the Taylors explained, there became an issue where they involved the input of the neighbor saying that she was gonna repair a fence. Some issues that came into me attempting to understand that information that was being sent to me from the Taylors through the neighbor is that it was an incomplete land survey, and there was communication by email to Mr. Taylor telling him, the current notes that were in the permitting system for that fence installation that was supposed to take place at the neighbors, that her survey was not a complete survey. And I sent that information to him numerous times, and as of today, that permit still remains open for the neighbor's fence and is not a final permit. So again,
Mr. Magistrate, I think the whole point here is that it took a year to comply, and there was something that didn't have to take a year. The inspector made all the efforts necessary. The conditions were not conditions that should have been part of this rental circumstance, and quite frankly, the staff has been very generous throughout with its initial offer, even with its offer today. And so there's no desire for any reduction. Was a generous offer the first time. And since then, it's taken a lot of time, legal time as well as staff time to now prepare, and even it's the time for this proceeding. And so we believe we're being reasonable, and we're asking you to go ahead and make the finding as requested.
Okay, well, Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, I'm not going to change my mind. If you wish to accept the $4,500, which I could live with, and the city can live with, then, but I'm not prone to reduce it any further. So I don't hear anything from you in that regard. So therefore, I am going to issue an order. And therefore, with respect to lien review 3, RTL 04-2332, property owners respondents being Kurt Irving Taylor and Stacy Taylor for property at 537 Pelican Bay Drive, I hereby order that the lien review request in this matter be denied, and the lien of that's currently at $9,424 will remain on the property. That's it. We'll move on to lien review 4.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Confused? What happened?
We have to pay $4,500.
What happens from here, sir? This is new to us. I'm not sure.
The lien remains on the property as it currently is.
Okay.
I would be willing to reduce it to $4,500, but since you won't accept that.
No, we accept it, sir.
You
Sir,
will?
Yes.
Okay.
And if they will, Your Honor, then we'll
Okay.
we continue to maintain, we're willing to do the 4,500
Are you still willing
and
to?
allow the 90-day payment period as offered.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Sir, then I will withdraw my ruling previously made with respect to lien review 3. I hereby order that the previous order that I issued be withdrawn, and I will replace it with this order then. Lien review 3, RTL 042332, respondents being Kurt Irving Taylor and Stacy Taylor for property at 537 Pelican Bay Drive. I order the lien in that case to be reduced to the amount of $4,500, subject to being paid within 90 days, as previously stated in this proceeding, or the fine will revert back to the original amount. I want to make clear that you have 90 days to pay it, otherwise the fine reverts back to the original amount.
And Mr. Magistrate, if you can make sure that emphasis is that 45 days to pay it in full. I mean, I'm sorry, 90 days to pay it in full.
It is,
If
that
paid
is,
anything short of in full, then it reverts.
yes. I want to make that clear, as Mr. Jackson, the attorney for the city, has stated, that $4,500 must be paid in full within 90 days, or the fine will revert back to the original amount. So the ball is in your court, and I think the city is being very generous under the circumstances as I heard them.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next case is lien review 4, 115 South Grandview, RTL, case number RTL 11-21-235, RE Equity Investment Group, LLC, Juani Paulino, and Daytona 19, LLC.
I believe they're appearing via Zoom. We
Hi.
probably have Mr. Zarilla. Mr. Liu.
Is that a
It's suggesting.
video
someone
from
has
their camera?
Someone apparently stepped away.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can pass.
I'm going to give them another minute, and if they don't reappear, then, Mr. Mingo, this is one of your matters.
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that this can be brought to a close, or is this going to be contested?
No, they're contesting it.
Okay. Right. 1 minute has passed. Mr. Mingo, Mr. Jackson, what is the city's preference in this, to either put this to be heard at the end of this proceeding or to simply deny the request?
we have another one. We want to go to that when I come back. We have another one.
You do?
No.
I think that's it.
So we'll put it at the end.
Put it at the end. Okay, well
Yeah,
then,
come back at the end.
yes, we're going to continue this matter to the end of this proceeding, and hopefully they're back. If they're not back, then they'll have to probably be denied. But I'll give them an opportunity to argue their position. All right. We're going to move on to the cases. First case is RTL 08-2336, Kimberly Siegel. This is an irreparable, irreversible matter. This citation is for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code Article 4, Section 4.1A, Article 5, Section 5.2.A.2 at 122 North Caroline Street. Oh, are you here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Could you say your name, please?
Kimberly Siegel.
You can pull that all the way down. There you go.
Kimberly Siegel.
And raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Please.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Yates.
All right, the case before you is a zoning violation. This case was field generated. The property is zoned RDM6. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in the zoning district. The violation was first observed August 2nd, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property stopped actively advertising as of August 22nd, 2023. The daily posted rate was $200, and it displayed 5 reviews. The check-in, check-out time were shown as flexible and 1 p.m. Due to the actions of the property owner, and this being an irreparable and irreversible action, the city is requesting a one-time fine of $5,000.
Okay. Anything further?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Siegel?
Yes. I mean, the only thing I can say is my mom passed away and she didn't have life insurance. So it was a $25,000 funeral. It's not a rental. I live there. It's not a fancy house. I travel as a nurse, which I didn't get to do during the pandemic because my mom had dementia. She passed away on March 30th. Yes, I put it up as a weekend rental that I have some people stay there on the weekend only, but it is my residence. I actually live there. It was not something that I was trying to make a lot of money or have a lot of money to do. I don't have a criminal record. I'm a nurse. My mom was sick. Funerals are expensive. That's all I can say. I live there. So, I don't have a lot of money. If I have to pay, that's fine. I've got homeless people living in lots near my house. Nobody does anything about that. Well, the drug dealers on the corner.
Okay. Ms. Siegel, Mr. Jackson, I believe are you going to present the irreparable, irreversible?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Siegel, you get a chance to respond to anything that he
That's fine.
And just for Ms. Siegel's sake, we want to say that there's a lot of circumstances. We understand that. So we're not here to make you a bad person, but we will say that we feel that you did not comply with the code.
Yes.
So as it relates to irreparable, irreversible, the position of the city is this, that what we believe supports our finding that this property is irreparable and reversible in nature as provided by Florida Statute 16209(1)D. Because of the nature of the violations, and I'd ask anyone else in the audience that's here for these type of cases to listen in, so you may not need me or want me to have to go over this again, but I will in each case if necessary. The nature of the violations are that it's a beneficial gain to the property owner that's advertising, which is many times our basis of determining the violation, that they're advertising conduct that is prohibited by our code. The effect of holding our property as vacation rental is irreversible. The property is advertised worldwide, marketing a destination that draws people from all over the world for principal special events such as our Daytona 500 races, our Bike Week, our world's most famous beach, as well as properties are marketed to draw for nearby destinations such as Disney and world and the Space Coast. Once the property's advertised, they're never unadvertised. The reality is that you can't push it back in the tube. Once it's out there, it's out there. It can be forwarded, tweeted, even copied and pasted on other sites. And even when it's taken down from the primary source, it's accessible to people who've already made contact with the rental individuals. Facebook data from 2018 provided that 1.8 billion people worldwide can connect to a business on Facebook. It's estimated between 10 million to 1 billion people are reached through vacation rental advertising. The information is long-range effect, luring patrons under contract to participate in unlawful stays in our city and with the risk of poor health, safety, and welfare due to unregulated or self-regulated vacation accommodations that patrons enter at their own risk. One single day of advertising can potentially book a property for the whole year. These promised stays are potentially to the detriment of the patron, and they're definitely to the detriment of licensed hotels, motels, and lawful vacation rentals that have gone through the proper zoning regulations, the proper inspections, the proper licensing, the proper insurance, and proper taxation that's required by law. The transient nature of the rentals limit the means of an enforcement typical to identifying advertisements. By the time our code enforcement arrives to properties, the transient patrons typically are gone from the property, or they claim misleading relationships that are often contradicted by the advertised visitors' comments that we see later. The monetary effect of these unlawful rentals is that one is tax avoidance, but more so, it's inadequate insurance coverage. It's unfair business competition against the lawful accommodations businesses and the lawful vacation rentals. The community effect is the transient business use within unauthorized residential neighborhoods affect density, parking, noise, and safety. They affect the peaceful enjoyment expected in residential neighborhoods, and they diverge from traditional and reliable residential norms. There's been a demand from the business community to our commission, which has led to a request for strong deterrence to those that are raking in profits, avoiding taxes, avoiding zoning requirements, and regulatory controls. We have all seen rentals going for amounts as much as several $1,000s a week and realize substantial fines are the only deterrent tool available. By the time we arrive and say stop, the beneficial gains are already realized. State law adopted by the city defines vacation rentals to include advertising for the transient guests. Therefore, the city requests a finding that these violations be deemed irreparable or irreversible in nature as provided by a Florida statute. The amount of these fines can be a maximum of $15,000. We frequently, when we first started this program, asked for that maximum amount to satisfy the strong deterrent necessary because of the economic benefit of these rentals. We no longer ask for that amount on all cases, only when we have certain circumstances that are of a great concern, based primarily on the amount of time that they remain after they've been noticed to stop. In this case, the inspectors asked for a fine of $5,000, again, based on the time period when it was requested to stop, or some other issue related to the nature of the violation. Our code requires that we consider the gravity of the violation, the effort of the violator to come into compliance, and the history of the violation, and determining what we recommend for the fine. And so with that being said, the city is requesting a $5,000 fine in this case, and we would ask for you to proceed with a determination that it is irreparable and irreversible in nature.
Ms. Siegel, do you have anything to add?
Does that, as soon as I got the notice, I took it down right away. I wasn't intentionally trying to break the law. It's not like I said, I took it down.
Ms. Siegel, can you explain to me, I've been hearing these now for a number of years.
Yeah.
And as Mr. Yates stated, you were notified on the 2nd of August, but the actual cessation of the ad itself, holding something out for rental, is a violation of this code. And that did not occur. The ending of that advertisement did not end until, as Mr. Yates said, August 22nd, which is about 3 weeks later.
I was away in St. Augustine at the Veterans. I'm a travel nurse. I didn't get the notice in my mail until I got home, and then I did contact Airbnb right away.
That's certainly possible.
Okay.
And I did communicate with him when I got it.
Yes, the one she called me on that date, it was removed that day when she did.
Like immediately. I was out of town.
All right. I believe last month there was a gentleman who was out of the country, and I had reduced his amount some because he was unaware of that. I will be asking, though, that in the future, Mr. Yates, since I need some kind of documentation to that effect. It's easy for people to say they're out of town, out of state. I mean, and I need something so that I'm not creating an excuse, an unverified excuse that everybody is capable of using. And I understand your circumstances, and I haven't asked for this before, and I'm not going to start with this one, but I would in the future, if there are people who, Mr. Yates, I assume that you discuss these matters with them.
Absolutely, no.
That if they are going to claim that were unavailable, that they be able to somehow document that.
I will certainly
otherwise,
request they bring it with them.
Right, because partly what I see is that properties become piggy banks. Now, if short-term rentals are allowable in some parts of the city, but they require a permit and inspections and the whole thing. Long-term rentals are allowable in some parts of the city. They require permits and inspections. These are simply totally off the charts. They don't follow any rules. They're not subject to any inspections or any of the standards that the city imposes on everyone else. And it simply reflects that a home in Daytona Beach is a piggy bank. There are people who want to rent down here, and there are platforms where you can do that, and you can earn some quick money and escape all of the rules and the regulations of the city. And so I am going to, this time, and Ms. Siegel, I understand your circumstances, and I'm going to take all that into account, and I'm going to deal with this as we dealt with the gentleman who was out of the country. I will, since you did act promptly, I'm going to reduce the fine to $1,000. Okay, and on this, but I can't reduce it all the way because you are still doing something that is not allowed by code. Okay. All right. Therefore, in case number 1, RTL 082336, I find the respondent Kimberly Siegel to have been in noncompliance of Article 4, Section 4.1A, and Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibit short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals. Such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner and the damage to the surrounding neighborhood occurs at the time the violation occurs and cannot be undone as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 122 North Caroline Street, and to have subsequently come into compliance on August 22nd, 2023, and hereby order the respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $1,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again, and that for any future repeat violation, the respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about your loss.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose.
Case number 2, RTL 09-2353, Michael Kalicharan and Radha Singh, cited for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code Article 4, Section 4.1A, Article 5, Section 5.2.A.2 at 151 South Peninsula Drive.
Could you state your names, please?
John Michael Kelly Sharon.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Yates?
The case before you is a zoning violation. This case was field generated. The property is zoned RDB6. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in this zoning district. The violation was first observed August 16th, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property was not actively advertising as of August 18th, 2023. The daily posted rate was $224. The advertisement displayed 10 reviews. The check-in, check-out time was shown as 3 p.m. and 11 a.m. Due to the actions of the property owner, and this being an irreparable and irreversible action, we are requesting a one-time fine of $1,000.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, do you have anything further, Mr. Yates?
No, sir.
Mr. Jackson, do you have anything to add?
Yes. Mr. Kalicharan?
Kelly Sharon.
Okay, we'll go with your first. and Ms. Singh. Did y'all hear me
Earlier,
make the
yes.
request earlier regarding irreparable and irreversible?
Yes.
Is that something that you waived me reading again or announcing again?
No, we listened clearly to
Okay,
what you
is
had
that,
to say.
and you do have a right if you want to address any of those issues with the magistrate. But if you waive me presenting it again, then I would ask the magistrate to add us as part of the findings for this case.
Sir, it will be made a part of the record, but if there's anything that you feel that is incorrect or you object to, you certainly have a right to state your opposition. I'm just putting it in the record that he said these words. That's
Okay, yeah,
basically.
no, we're okay with that.
Okay. Then,
With that being said, I have nothing further.
all right. Then let the record reflect that Mr. Kalicharan and is it Ms. Singh have waived or have agreed to waive an objection to the presentation made by Mr. Jackson as to irreparable and irreversible. But if you have issues with them, this is your opportunity to state your objections.
I'm okay. We made an honest mistake.
Okay. Then, you have anything further you want to say?
No, sir.
All right. Then, with respect to case number 2, RTL 09-2353, respondents being Michael Kalicharan and Radha Singh, I find the respondents to have been in noncompliance with Article 4, Section 4.1A and Article 5, Section 5.2.A.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibit short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals. And such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner in a damaged surrounding neighborhood occurs time the violation occurs and cannot be undone, and as provided for by Section 162.091D, Florida statutes, for the property at 151 South Peninsula Drive, and to subsequently come on to compliance on August 18th, 2023, and hereby order respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $1,000. Is that agreeable?
Okay. Yes,
You're
sir.
not objecting to it?
No, that's
Okay.
fine.
and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again, and that for any future repeat violation, the respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Case number 3, RTL 09-2354, respondents Sammy Thompson and Brittany Culpepper, cited for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code Article 4, Section 4.1.a, Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 of the Land Development Code at 268 Williams Avenue.
Good morning. Could you state your name, please?
Brittany Culpepper.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Yates?
All right, the case before you was a zoning violation. This case was field generated. The property is zoned SFR 5. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in this zoning district. The violation was first observed August 16th, 2023, and she was notified the same day. The property was not actively advertising as of August 16th, 2023. The daily posted rate was $200. The advertisement displayed 7 reviews. The check-in, check-out time were shown as 1 p.m. and 12 p.m. Due to the actions of the property owner, and this being an irreparable and irreversible action, we're requesting a one-time fine of $1,000.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Yates?
No, sir.
Mr. Jackson, do you have something?
Yes, Ms. Culpepper. Did you hear my presentation requesting, or at least what I presented to the magistrate as the city's position regarding
Yes, sir.
reversible? Is that something you need me to present again?
No, sir.
Okay, would you agree to waive me reading that again and that being entered into the record?
Yes.
In this case.
Okay. The respondent has waived actually, the respondent has agreed to allow Mr. Jackson's presentation regarding irreparable and irreversible to be placed in the record. Ms. Culpepper, this is now your opportunity to state anything that you want to state with regard to this.
Yes, sir. So Sammy Thompson and I moved here in 2021. We were both veterans, and when we moved here with the intentions of purchasing a home that we could eventually Airbnb or short-term rental, whatever platform that would be, upon graduating from Embry-Riddle. Whenever I purchased the home, I did inform the title company and my realtor that those were my intentions. And I'm not to say that it's anyone to blame except for myself for not doing more research. However, when I brought that up, they were congratulating us. No one mentioned that the city of Daytona had permits and things of that nature, else I would have definitely looked into that. And as soon as we found out and got the notice on the door, I did take it down and I canceled all future reservations. We are on a fixed disability income and we both attend Embry-Riddle. So if we have to pay the $1,000, I mean, I guess that is what it is, but it's definitely going to hurt our family.
Okay. Does the city have anything further to add?
No.
Okay. Well, Ms. Culpepper, unfortunately, you're one of the many people who have appeared here who have relied on statements from various entities that were not correct. And I don't know, I would assume that realtors and title companies by now should know this, and I don't know why they continue to tell people that, you know, if they're going to have a vacation rental, they should check with the city to make sure. There are a few places where you can have a vacation rental, but that's something that is defined by the zoning map, and it's not defined by them. And so, you know, I'm sorry, but that is the standard that we, you know, the $1,000, which is the fine and for this. And it reflects the fact that, again, as I said before, people are making money off of this, and obviously you wanted to make some money off of this. And so it's sort of operating a business, and you're operating a business without being in the proper place or having the proper licenses.
And if I can, Mr. Magistrate, I'm speaking to Ms. excuse me, to Ms. Culpepper as well as everyone else out there, you need to understand as well, ma'am, that what happens here is that we will impose, if the magistrate imposes that fine, you'll get an invoice. If that invoice isn't paid, it will be a lien against the property as well as a lien against those who are named owners. So what that means is that it would encumber you, or if you try to sell it or something else, so it'll be there if you try to get a loan. So it's not something that if you don't pay next week, it has a different impact from the perspective of the city, as far as, credit, those types of things that would be, things to work out. But it's not, in that sense, so urgent in terms of its impact on your immediate economics.
Yes, sir.
And that's not as a favor, that's just the law.
Yes, sir.
Okay, therefore, in case number 3, RTL 09-2354, I find the respondents, Sammy Thompson and Brittany Culpepper, to have been in noncompliance with Article 4, Section 4.1A and Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibits short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals. Such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner and damage surrounding neighborhood occurs at the time the violation occurs and cannot be undone as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 268 Williams Avenue, and to have subsequently come into compliance on August 16, 2023, and hereby order the respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $1,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again, and that for any future repeat violation, the respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Culpepper, thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
Case number 4, RTL 09-2355. Respondent Ikiana Shrede. You probably have to pronounce this for me, please. Crowley, cited for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code, Article 4, Section 4.1A, Article 5, Section 5.2.A.2 at 300 Dahun Holly Drive. Ms. Crowley, or Ms. Crowley, first, how do you pronounce your name?
Ikena Sharde Crowley.
Ikena Sharde. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Crowley, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Yates?
The case before you is a zoning violation. This case was field generated. The property is zoned PDG. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in the zoning district. The violator was first notified September 1st, 2020. The violation was first observed September 1st, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property was actively advertising until September 21st, 2023. The daily posted rate was $30. It displayed 9 reviews. The check-in, check-out time were shown as 4 p.m. and 11 a.m. Due to the nature of these actions being irreparable and irreversible, and the actions of the property owner, the city was requesting a one-time fine of $5,000.
Okay, Mr. Yates, what were those dates again, please?
September 1st is when they were notified and observed, and then September 21st is when the listing was removed.
All right. And they were notified on the 1st?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jackson?
Ms. Crowley, I'm Anthony Jackson. I'm the attorney for the city of Daytona Beach. I don't know if you were here or heard when I asked the magistrate or presented the city's position as relates to the request that these cases be found to be irreparable or irreversible in nature. So my question for you is that something you need me to present again, or do you waive me presenting that again to the magistrate and allow him to enter that into the record without objection?
I waive that.
Okay, then let the record reflect that the respondent has waived Mr. Jackson presenting his presentation on irreparable and irreversible, and please place that in the record. Okay, Ms. Crowley, it's your turn now. And if you can present your case to me.
Yes. So when I first started, I apologized to the city of Daytona Beach for not doing my homework, and not knowing that I couldn't rent out my home or portions of my home without special permits. I am a disabled veteran, similar to the last person, and I was just trying to make ends meet. And I realized I went about it the wrong way. And once I was notified, I did receive the notification, or the notice rather, a few days later, I guess after it was posted on my door. And I thought that I removed it. I closed my calendar immediately. And I was more focused on the reservations because I had some pending and upcoming reservations, some within like a day or so, that I needed to immediately close or cancel. So I was focused on that, and I realized that my calendar or my reservations kind of were having some issues with completely closing. But yes, I did finally close it out completely on that date. So that was just me not being tech savvy, me being new to the platform, and not realizing certain things using the app versus needing to use the computer. I did not completely close or terminate certain accounts for reservations, but I immediately canceled the reservations, and that was more so my focus.
Okay. Ms. Crowley, you're in an unfortunate position because from what I've heard over the months, when I've heard these, is that generally Mr. Yates is very good about trying to work people to get them offline. And that is what the fine has been related to, and that is the fact that there is a presence online on one of those platforms of a property that is available for rent. And what I have here is you're focused on something, and I don't know how quickly you got with Mr. Yates, but we have like a 3-week gap between the time you were notified and the time that advertisement comes down. And that has been the basis primarily on which we have been focused on in terms of trying to determine what is an appropriate fine under the circumstances, that there is a benefit to getting it down quickly, because a lot of people now that are coming forward are people who are not long-term advertisers. And so it starts to create some issues. Mr. Yates, were you contacted prior to the 21st by Ms. Crowley?
Unfortunately, we've never had contact. I only discovered that because I monitor the site daily to see when your advertisement comes off.
Okay. Do you, in the notice, provide any information on how to get with you so as to...
Absolutely, yeah. My email, my hours, and my contact phone number.
Okay. You're sort of the, what do they call that? The gatekeeper on this thing. The speed with which you get with generally if somebody is doing something they're cited for, generally they contact the person who was cited and say, how do I fix it? And self-help in this situation is not the best course because you have to satisfy the city. The city is the one who has cited you. I think you understand that.
Yes, sir.
Was the property rented out to anyone between the period of 9/1 and 9/21? Were there tenants or that were?
No, on 9/1, I had a tenant currently in the middle of a reservation, but after that, my focus was completely on canceling all future reservations, and I did so.
And in my site visits to this property subsequently in between, I did not note any additional traffic.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to give you a little credit. I You're not the same as the people who have immediately gotten with the city and brought it down, but then I'm trying, shades of trying to work something, and I'm willing to reduce the fine to $4,000. And so if you have any problems with that, this would be your time to object or state any reasons otherwise, other than the $5,000 that the city is asking for.
Other than I can't afford it, but I heard everybody else who said that. So,
Okay.
no, I already stated that I was focused on the reservations, making sure that they were canceled, and then I closed my calendar immediately. I did not accept any additional reservations, and then I realized that I needed to completely terminate my accounts, and that there were extra measures that I hadn't taken to do that. So,
Okay. You fall in that unusual area. Usually there are the people who immediately respond and the people who just sort of blow it off and don't respond at all. And had you been a little bit more timely, then I could proceed with a little reducing the fine a little bit lower, but that's where I am. So therefore, in case number 4, RTL 09-2355, Ikena Shrede Crowley, respondent. I find the respondent, or let me start over again. In case number 4, RTL 09-2355, I find the respondent, Ikena Shrede Crowley, to have been in noncompliance of Article 4, Section 4.1a and Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibits short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals. Such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner or damage surrounding neighborhood occurs at the time the violation occurs and cannot be undone as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 300 Dahoon Holly Drive, subsequently come into compliance on September 21, 2023, and hereby order the respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $4,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again. For any future repeat violation, a respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes. So I have imposed a fine of $4,000, but if it was to reoccur, then you could be facing a fine of up to $15,000. And I'm really kind of saying that for all of the people that are in the room at this time. Just
Yes,
so
sir.
that you're all aware, you're all being cited pretty much for the same thing. So,
yes, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Case number 5, RTL 09-2356, Raheel Taylor, cited for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code, Article 4, Section 4.1.a, Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 at 131 Tarragona Way.
Hello.
Sir, could you state your name, please?
Raheel Taylor.
And raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Yates.
The case before you is a zoning violation. This case was field generated. The property is zoned SFR 5. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in this zoning district. The violation was first observed September 1st, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property stopped actively advertising as of September 26, 2023. The daily posted rate was $100, and the advertisement displayed one review. The check-in, check-out time were shown as 4 p.m. and 10 a.m. Due to the actions of the property owner, and this being irreparable and irreversible in nature, the city is requesting a one-time fine of $5,000.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Taylor, I don't know if you heard my presentation. I can make that presentation again if you so desire, or I could ask, I am asking if it's something that you are willing to allow the magistrate to place in the record in your case without objection, so that I don't have to state it again. If you want me to present it again, I will.
No, I'm fine.
I didn't know what you said.
I'm fine, I don't need it.
Okay.
Then let the record reflect that Mr. Taylor has waived Mr. Jackson having to present his irreversible presentation that he provided for, I believe it was earlier today in case number,
Mr. Case.
case number
One.
1, RTL 08-2336. And that presentation is hereby placed in the record for this proceeding.
Okay, but,
Mr. Taylor?
yeah, what I would like to say is, I'm just trying to survive at this point. I purchased the property about not even 2 years ago. My taxes at that time was about $3,000 and some change. And after I purchased the property, taxes went to about $7,000. And that's over double the amount that I was expecting to pay, that I got approved for the loan and everything. Then I went into another contract with a contractor to get some solar panels placed on the property. They never finished the work. Now I'm still owed to pay the loan for these solar panels, so I don't get any tax credit or anything. The money that the property is generated, I already gave to the city already. I just paid everything. Taxes time is almost here again. I mean, the insurance that I paid on the property went from about $2,000 to almost $8,000. I'm just trying to survive. The cost of everything is crushing me. I just got off work. I had to pick up a second job at a company here in Daytona. So I'm just trying to survive. I live at the property with my family. I honestly don't want to be doing this with my property, but I don't know what else to do. I mean, I'm working around the clock. I mean, most of the people that's coming into this situation is just getting squeezed out by the daily cost of living. It's veterans, people that try to defend this country for us. They went up to do this, and this is what we're doing to them. I mean, I don't get what I'm supposed to do. I'm working, I'm a father, I'm doing everything I can. I don't want to do this to my property, I really don't. But what is here to protect me as the resident of Daytona Beach? I mean, how can my taxes double like that? How can my homeowner's insurance double like that? Like, when is this gonna stop? Like, how can I make it at this point, you know? I mean, I'm a business owner, I'm trying here. It's like everything is not going up 5, 10, 15, 20%. Everything is doubling right now. I don't know what to say on a $5,000 fine. I'm already 4 months behind on my mortgage. What am I supposed to do? I mean, no one's stopping the meth houses in the neighborhood and stuff. No one's stopping people from living in the dilapidated houses. I moved into the property, I fixed it up. Every time I'm outside working on my property, my neighbors thank me for being such a good neighbor and actually bringing the property back to life. And I don't know what to do. I can't even make repairs or do anything anymore because what I'm going through, and now a $5,000 fine, like the money that I made is literally going towards the city already. If you see, I just probably made that payment, or probably a month ago, to the city in taxes. I have to pay $7,000 just to live in the city. I'm not talking about mortgage payments. I'm not talking about insurance. Insurance is $8,000. Nothing's got better with my property. Why is my taxes doing this? Like, what are we supposed to do? And that was embarrassing. Our veterans came back and we're still doing this to them. Like, what are we supposed to do? These are hardworking people too. The young lady here, she's going to school, her and her husband. People are trying. So after you finish crush the hardworking people of Daytona, what are we supposed to do?
Mr. Taylor, I don't necessarily disagree with what you have to say. I observed the same thing that you're seeing.
I'm 4 months behind, so sorry. I'm 4 months behind already, and then this again, like, I don't get what I'm supposed to do. I was happy to be a homeowner, and then this is happening. This is a nightmare for me. And I did nothing wrong in terms of what I'm doing. It's not like all of a sudden I started making less. I feel like it was a switch, like a bait and switch. They came out here, they got you a nice house and everything, and then everything skyrocketed on you. Like,
Mr.
my
Taylor,
payments went from $2,100 to over $5,000. People in the city don't even make that type of money, so where are we supposed to live?
Mr. Taylor, do you live in a house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was saying if you didn't, you can probably rent it out on a long-term basis. but the city has specific rules regarding short-term rentals. And that is the problem. The city commission is the one that establishes the code and the rules that are then sent down to city staff to cite people for, and for that come to me to then make determinations regarding. I can't invalidate a city code. And that is at the root of the problem, is that if something is a violation and the city feels very seriously about it, you perhaps don't understand is that in many cases that I've heard, people abuse the short-term rental provision. Okay, they're out-of-state owners. They have no connection whatsoever with the community.
I agree with that.
And it's just party city, and these are in subdivisions where people get up to go to work in the morning. And they've been up all night because every night there's a new family or a new group that comes in that parties all night and thinks it's just a wonderful place. And we're talking about subdivisions, not places that are, and that is the problem. And it's compounded by the fact that there's a statute that relates to these that makes it difficult for if I understand correctly, for the city to make changes to its short-term rentals. So I understand you get caught in the middle. And that is an unfortunate situation to be in. I agree. I understand. Mr. Jackson, do you have anything to add? I mean, I'm.
Mr. Riggio, you said it all, and appreciate Mr. Taylor venting in a respectful way, and I mean, everyone has feelings, and it's an experience, and homeownership can become costly and unfair sometimes, and really in terms of taxes and insurances kind of impacting most of us. But I also understand the desire to be able to utilize the property in ways that you feel could help you out. However, in this circumstance, you're not able to do it the way that you're doing it with short-term rental. And for those who were left to believe they can do that when they purchase, that's unfortunate. That's something we don't have any control over. And the desire for change, as Mr. Riggio has indicated, has some challenges because of the way the state law is written. So our commissioners looked at certain things in the past, and I'm sure they'll continue to look at ways to make sure they're getting a balance and try and help. But the reality is we have an ordinance that prohibits that allows it in certain areas, and that leaves other areas where it's not allowed, and where it's not allowed, it's not allowed. And our role here is to enforce it, not to make anyone bad or to make them good, but to enforce that. And so that's all we're doing. And hopefully someone is, I also represent the police department, so I presume and desire that they're dealing with the meth places and all the other places. And as much as we get the reports, I'm sure they'll be out trying to do what they can to stop the bad places. But we appreciate the good folks and the good places, but we just can't allow that which is prohibited by code.
Understood.
Okay. Mr. Yates,
Yes,
you
sir.
said the city was recommending a $5,000 fine.
Yes, sir.
Was there, in your tracking of this from September 1st to September 26th, was there any activity on this?
No, I didn't note anyone on site.
All right. Then, and I know Mr. Taylor is not going to be really happy with this, because I understand where you're coming from. But I will reduce it as I did in the previous one to 4,000. The the speed with which people contact the city and make those arrangements has been the critical part of the way fines are assessed. I would say,
I did
Mr. Taylor,
contact-
I would suggest that you make a very eloquent statement as to the situation, that you talk with your city commission members, you talk with your elected officials, and try to discuss with them changes, but they are the ones who ultimately make your representatives and your state senator make the state laws, and your local city council make the local laws. And as Mr. Jackson said, we are put in I'm put in position, he is put in a position of trying to enforce those rules. We didn't write them, but they are what they are. As I recall, once upon a time, everybody who owned a corner lot, whether it was zoned for commercial or not, wanted to run a business on it, and on weekends and all kinds of things. This is something that seems to happen. Properties can generate money sometimes based on their location or things like short-term rental platforms. And so, but if the city commission has not made it a use that's acceptable, then it has to stop. So, sir, I will reduce the fine to $4,000 as I did in the previous matter based on what Mr. Yates said, but I really can't reduce it anymore. So, do you have anything further?
City has my money already. I already paid everything I had to the city just to be able to live in the city. There's really nothing more. I just got off of work just now. I'm working. I still have my own business. I don't have that money.
I understand everybody who has appeared before me today is probably in the same
Because
position.
everybody's getting squeezed. The cost of everything is going up, and who's making that type of money to pay for any property or anything now? I mean, we're coming in and we're trying to fix up the city and get the properties around us looking better. I'm actually one of the people that did that. So I think we would make everything better but like you said, that's not on you. So I rest my case.
I can't rewrite the law of the city.
I rest my case.
And that's why I said you need to go to the people who write the laws, and if you feel that they are not proper, to make your case to them. I'm not in that position, but I can find a little leeway, and hopefully it helps a little with your situation. So therefore, with respect to case number 5, RTLO 92356, I find the respondent Raheel Taylor to have been in noncompliance with Article 4, Section 4.1.a and Article 5, Section 5.2.a.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibits short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals, and that such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner in a damaged surrounding neighborhood occurs at the time the violation occurs and cannot be undone as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 131 Tarragona Way, and to have subsequently come into compliance on September 26, 2023, and hereby order the respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $4,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again, and for any future repeat violation, the respondent may be placed on subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
It being about 10:30, I'm going to call for a 5-minute break, and then we will reconvene at 10:35.
Okay.
Recess. 37, and I call this session of the Special Magistrate proceeding back to order. And we are going to go back to the lien reviews, the one that we need to finish up for that section. We'll take this a bit out of order. This would be for 115 South Grandview, RTL 11, 21235. RE Equity Investment Group, LLC, Juani Paulino, and Daytona 19, LLC. There is currently an outstanding lien, including excuse me?
I said I don't have them up yet.
Oh. Can you bring them up?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to start over again so you can hear what I had to say. I was introducing your case.
Yeah, I heard.
Oh, you did hear? Okay. And I was going to state that there is currently an amount due of $15,462.25. And have Mr. Zarilla, is that correct?
Yeah,
you will need to be sworn if you're going to be testifying.
Could you state your name, please?
Wilson Zarilla.
Okay. And are you the only one on the call today? Usually.
Ralph should be on the call. I'm not sure why he's not populating. 1 second.
Oh, we got you.
Oh, there he goes. Perfect.
Okay. And could you state your name, please, Ralph? Okay. That's good. Could you raise your right hand, please?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
How are you?
Okay. Mr. Mango, has there been any discussions between these gentlemen and the city regarding this matter?
There has, but we didn't come to a resolution. The city's stance is that we're not recommending a reduction of the lien fine on this property.
Okay. All right. Then I'll let, who's going to present? Mr. Zarilla, are you going to present for your request to me?
Yeah, I guess me and Ralph can go back and forth, but
okay.
Basically just reiterating what we spoke about with Mrs. Temengo and the city was obviously the shortage of the windows. It took about, I believe, 4 or 5 months for the windows just to come in. We have proof of that. Everything is in email communication with Mrs. Temengo. We did our best to keep the line of communication open with her and letting her know when it was ordered. We sent her invoices. When it was installed, even after it was installed, there was a couple minor cosmetic touch-ups we wanted to do before she inspected, just to make sure that we did pass inspection. And, that took about another 30 days or so after the fact. And, I feel like we've been basically compliant to what you guys have told us. We've worked hard. We spent a lot of our own personal money out of the business to get this property up to standard. And, we're not in the best financial situation as a business ourselves, not only with the shortages, but we've been dealing with, as you know, Mr. Riggio, we have a couple other properties that we're working on as well. So we're coming to the city to ask for some kind of break in regards to the fine, being that we did work diligently to get this property up to par.
Okay. Do you have anything further to add? I'll give you more opportunity to speak after. Is it Mr. Mango, will you present for the city?
Yes. If you look at the history of the case, this case originally started with the previous owner RE Equity Investment Group, Wani Paulino. The property failed 2 inspections with that previous owner before we were notified that the property was sold to Daytona 19 LLC. I also just want to point out that this particular property is one in 5 multi-unit properties that Daytona 19 LLC purchased at one time, that they all have similar violations that were outstanding as far as windows that would not open at the property, which did present life safety issues. There was a reinspection of this property under the ownership of Daytona 19 LLC on March 30th of 2022, where some of the same violations that were present for the previous owners still outstanding there. Unit 1 failing with the living room windows that did not open or close properly, the windows sealed shut. Unit 3, where previously with the previous owner, we didn't have access to inspect, but on the inspection on March 30th, it was also that the utilities were not on and active at the time of that inspection. Unit 4, Unit 3 also had repairs to windows in the living room that needed to take place because those windows were stuck and sealed shut also. Unit 4, there was a boarded up window in the bathroom, and that violation also caused it to be no bath ventilation to that unit. That was in March 30th of 2022. Going on to April was when the April 26th was when the fines were ordered at $100 a day up to $15,000 cap. I did receive correspondence from Mr. Zarilla in an email dated March 14th of 2023. That's almost a year to the time where those violations were originally noted at that March 30th inspection, that windows were being ordered for, it looks like, unit number 2, where I did see there was an unpermitted window that took place there. The permits that were pulled for the replacing the windows at this property, it looks like there's one permit for 5 windows that was not pulled until September 22nd of 2022 and finalized on October 31st of 2022. So that would put the order for the windows out at least, let's see, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, at least 7 months from that inspection on March 30th. And then re-inspection requested on February 10th of 2023, there was a new violation documented for a window that was installed without a permit for Unit 2, in which a permit was subsequently pulled in July for that unit, and then it was finalized on July 27th of 2023. So there's been at least more than a year that time has passed in regards to the window issues and me being able to get back in for a re-inspection for this property August 14th of 2023 to do the re-inspection and get a final on that last window that was found in violation, that was installed without a permit. And so for that reason, you know, we're not recommending a reduction in lien fine, and just keeping in mind that that's the status of this particular property. But again, this was one property in a total of 5 multi-unit properties that Daytona 19 LLC purchased at the same time that had, you know, some of the same, if not similar violations at least 4 of the properties.
Okay. Mr. Mingo, who was the original owner on this?
It was RE Equity Investments Group
Okay,
and Wani Paulino.
okay. And then that property was sold to Daytona 19 LLC.
Yes, sir.
These gentlemen, Daytona 19 LLC?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have a couple questions. First of all, I remember the pictures of that property, and it looked pretty run down. And the last pictures I saw, it looked like they had brought that back up to standards.
Well, it looks like the
I
last.
mean, it's now no longer in violation.
It's now no longer in violation as of August 14th of 2023. I received an email from the owner that the window permit was final, so I was just able to place that property into compliance as that last remaining window violation for Unit 2 for an unpermitted window that was installed to the property.
But was that window installed by the previous owner?
No, it was not. When I went back out to a reinspection that was requested, I was under the impression that the property was in compliance because there was communication. When I went back out to reinspect, Unit 1 passed, and I noticed that there was construction and renovation going on to Unit 2 and that there were new windows that were installed that were not a part of the previous window permit. There were 5 windows that were ordered for a previous window permit that was final back in October of 2022. So people were on site installing windows in Unit 2, and there was, I'm sorry.
If you could just let Ms. Tomango finish, and then I'll give you an opportunity, Mr. Zarrillo. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, so.
So February 10th of 2023 was when I went back out for a reinspection, and there was a new violation documented of a window being installed at Unit 2.
Okay. Was it installed properly?
That I can't speak to. I just know that it
ultimately permitted?
It was ultimately permitted, and that, in fact, was that last window permit that we were waiting for to be finished, in which I got a call on August 14th to say that the permit was finalized. The record of that permit shows that it was pulled July of 2023. So from February 10th of 2023, when I discovered that unpermitted window, there was not a permit on record for that window until July of 2023.
Okay.
And then finalized August 14th of 2023.
Okay. Do you have anything further?
No.
Okay. Mr. Zarrillo?
Yeah, so I just piggyback on Mrs. Tomango, that unpermitted window. That actually, we didn't install that. That was the previous tenant that was moving. Apparently, he broke it by mistake and he put one in. We didn't know that was happening. So until we did the we did the walkthrough inspection with Mrs. Tomango in February, that was the only outstanding issue that she didn't give us compliance then, because she noticed, that wasn't part of the windows that were originally installed. So we had to get a new window vendor because the current window vendor we were using for the previous windows had went out of business. So it took us a little bit of time, but ultimately it did get done. And the only other work that was being done was paint in that unit. So everything else was in compliance. That was the only thing that caught us by surprise.
Wilson, can I just add one thing?
Sure.
Mr. Magistrate, good to see you. One thing I just want to point out is that when you go through the timeline, you'll see that we were waiting for the permits and the windows for over 7 months. So, I mean, it does look like it's a lot of time, and I mean, obviously it is a lot of time, but a lot of that time was out of our hands. So I just want to point that out, because we first found out what we needed to do in March of 2022, and then we didn't get the permits until September. So that's 6 months. Then we find out that a tenant has replaced one window, and at that time we were able to go a little bit faster, but it still took another month to 2 months to get that permanent window and then reinstall that. So I just want to explain the timeline a little bit, because it's not like we're just sitting around, you know, wasting time. We were waiting for the windows to come in, and we were waiting for the permits.
There was
So I just want
also,
to point that out.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Mango?
there was also the involvement of a property management group that was under hire by Daytona 19 LLC with an Umberto Acanero that there was a lot of correspondence by email and phone where it ended up being that that property management company was dismissed because of the communication that I was receiving from that property manager saying that they didn't have the budget to make the repairs that we were requesting to bring the property up to code. So within those timeframes, also with getting those windows ordered, you know, there was also communication from a property management group at that time that I recall and can speak to, and that Mr. Zarilla himself can confirm that was causing delays in coordination of the repairs at these properties also.
Yeah, that is, thank you, Mrs. Tamango. I forgot to mention that made us lose some time as well, dealing with that management company.
And money. They also stole some of our money, so we lost time and we lost money. So thank you for pointing that out. I'd like to forget it, but that is true.
Gentlemen, is this a rental property?
It is.
And you said that you have other properties that you are rehabbing in the city. Are they rental properties as well?
That's correct.
Okay.
We have approximately 20 units, I believe. Is that about right?
19 units.
19, okay.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, this is something I'm going to maybe address to you perhaps, and maybe Mr. Sykes. All you ever hear on television these days are problems with rental properties. People can't afford rentals. There aren't rentals available. And I'm going to say that when my first hearing, there was, I remember there was some friction and but as things moved along, these gentlemen were proceeding forward to getting completion, and they have completed it, and they have rehabbed a building that at least appeared to me to be somewhat of a eyesore. And I don't know, is in terms of trying to encourage people to provide rental properties, is this something that's been discussed by the city commission or anything of that regard? I'm just throwing this out because the money that they spend on fines is money that they don't have available for other projects. I'm not trying to be an advocate for them. I'm just trying to address things that I see in the news every day.
Yeah, I think part of our difficulty, our struggle here is that while, of course, we want good property owners and we want investors, we're not trying to in any way turn away or deter anyone from the investing in the city, of course not. But we want people also to be mindful of the effects of the community as a whole as they work through a process that sometimes, in this situation, we believe took a lot longer than it should have. And a lot of it may have had to do with them being a little bit overambitious and overextended.
May I correct your vocabulary on that? I don't understand how you can say it should have been a certain amount when we were waiting for the city's permitting. Like, then how is that under our control? I just dispute that phrasing.
And that's fine, and I'm not debating it, I'm just expressing, so I'll continue to express. But I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
So, in any sense, that's kind of where we are on this. I'd have to look to, anytime project isn't going the way we desire it to go, and even the parties may desire to go, and it has a continual effect, it's a detriment to at least those around it that have to deal with that. So I'll have to ask the staff if they see any adjustment in that regard. I do see at their initial offer was somewhere like 3,500 or something, if I remember right.
The number that they would like it to be reduced to is 346225.
That's what he, yeah.
I think what's most important now, Mr. Riggio, thank you for pointing out, our progress, because it has been very trying and very difficult to dealing with the vendors, not only the vendors, but also the tenants as well, making sure we're getting good tenants in there. But one thing to stress is that it's not easy to do renovations right now. I don't know if you guys are doing any renovations personally, but just everything is back ordered. Not only everything is back ordered, everything has doubled in price, labor, materials. So not only are we constrained financially, but mentally, physically. I mean, Mr. Riggio, you can attest that we've come to every meeting, and we're trying our best to do what we can to come into a compliance with you guys. But we need to work together, right? Like Mr. Riggio said, is there anything in the city that's helping these guys? We're not getting any help. We're getting hit, right? We're getting hit with fines, where you said we can use that for renovation. 15 grand goes a long way. We have 2 other properties that aren't in compliance. 3 out of our 5 properties are not now in compliance. That's something to be worth noting as well, that we are working upstream. It's an uphill battle, but we would love the help from the city. Not being knocked down for doing the right thing.
I think they make the point. I mean, if they still have properties in non-compliance, it's been taking a long time.
Yeah.
And because someone's adding rental property doesn't mean it's affordable housing. But again, and I'm not trying to debate that, I don't know the circumstance, I'm just saying that as a statement. They can tell us how affordable it is, I don't know. But in any sense, I think Mr. Sykes had some input as well, so if I could hear from Mr. Sykes.
Yeah, one of the reasons that we decided to go with no reduction is the length of time. And we heard the circumstances. I read their application, and also the fact that Inspector Domingo has spent plenty of time dealing with the individual members of the group, as well as the former property management group. And she was being pulled different ways depending on who she talked to at particular times. And again, I believe that when you invest, you assume a particular risk. Not sure if you got in over your head financially with the purchases, and as well as trying to make all the repairs in a timely fashion. But also, I took that into account, so that's why we are where we are with no reduction. And whatever the magistrate decides to do, we'll go ahead and go with that. But this is our position.
Okay. Well, when I started hearing this matter came before me, I thought that this was going to be one that would never finish. And it finished.
Well, not quite.
This one.
This specific one.
This specific one. You may have others. I'm not aware of them. But on this one, and you do raise an issue regarding windows, and you are not the only respondents to come before me with window issues. And windows at some points in time, and I think maybe still, are like trying to find hen's teeth. I've granted people lots of extra time and things of that nature, And as I said before, when you first came actually, I think this started with Daytona 19 LLC. There was the original owner.
RE Equity Investment.
Or RE Equity, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And that was I think was going nowhere. And that's why I said I thought this was going to end up being one where the property was not going to end up being rehabbed, and it was going to essentially continue to be a blight. My feeling is that the thing that lien reductions are about relate to what is it that you've done that actually benefits the citizens of Daytona Beach, makes the city a better place. You know, and sometimes people do one building at a time or whatever, but if everybody did their part, and so that's a benefit to the city that the city receives. I assume this has now gone back on the tax rolls, and probably is being taxed at a higher rate than it was before. And so I am very much prone to give a reduction, but I'm sort of at a point where I think that your request is way too low, and I feel that the city's position is way too high. And I don't know whether it might be better for you all to just talk it over and see if there's something that you could work out and bring it back at a subsequent meeting. Otherwise, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, and I don't like doing that. But I am telling you the way I feel. I think that your number's on the low side, and I think the city's number's on the high side. So somewhere in between, there is a middle ground that I think would be appropriate. But I can't really state what that middle ground is, because otherwise I'd just be pulling a number out of the air.
Can we settle this here, Mr. Riggio?
Yeah.
As opposed
I would love to do that, but I don't think that the forum is where you are in open discussion with everyone is the best forum for doing that. I would prefer to hear you discuss it amongst yourselves, and I sense there's some disagreement. Rather than bring your disagreements that tend to come to the forefront as the things that are being, that you work that out amongst yourselves. But I think there is a middle ground that would be most appropriate.
Mr. Magistrate.
Sir, may I say something?
I'll let them speak first.
Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. We had the meeting before, and I just feel like we couldn't really work it out, and I'm not really sure why we weren't able to come to some compromise in the first meeting. I mean, that's with all due respect, that's what I expected we would do the first time. So when the first meeting they asked for the maximum fine, it just kind of put our backs against the wall. And I mean, like you said before, I think a fine that's a high fine is a huge deterrent for future investments and future rehabs. So that's why I'm not sure I have the confidence that we can work it out with the same group as last time.
Well,
I agree to piggyback off that. I feel like the city's just not taking into account how much money it cost us already to bring these properties up to par. They're not taking into consideration the shortage of vendors, the shortage of labor workers. And I feel like you can only understand if you're in our shoes. And I'm not sure if they're doing any renovations themselves in Daytona to make Daytona any better. But I'm sure if they were, they would realize, you know, how tough it is to get work done right now.
Agreed.
If I may, Mr. Magistrate, every investment in Daytona has not accrued fines. That's not what happens.
We inherited it.
Let me speak, guys. That's what happened in this case. You asked about a possibility of midway. we're willing to consider Midway. If that's something that they're willing to do today, and it will be today only, when we talk, we'll see what we can talk about. But if they want to go 50-50 on this, we're willing to make that our recommendation.
Midway, as I calculate, would be $9,462.25. You add 6,000 to theirs, that takes you to that figure. You subtract 6,000 from the current number of the fine, and it gets you to that figure. That's Midway.
Sir, I still think that's too high. I think that's still a huge deterrent. I mean, we did complete the work. The place does look better than it did. I'm sorry, I just think that Mr. Sykes and Mr. Jackson are mischaracterizing what's happening. I mean, yeah, maybe not every property has a fine on it, but I mean, the fact is some properties were bought in perfect condition. I mean, I would posit that every property that has rehabs has gone through a similar process, especially during this COVID era when it's absolutely impossible to rely on the supply chain. I mean, one of our vendors went out of business while we were relying on them to install windows. I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. I mean, it's super unfortunate. These were good people that went out of business, and I feel like we're super grateful we found another company that could complete the job. It has been very hard to find workers to do the job. That's why I think, to piggyback what Mr. Zarilla is saying, it's been very difficult to get vendors and to make things happen. So I just think to levy a fine that high, it's just like a slap in the face to how much work we did to make the city better and to provide housing that's safe. I mean, getting them into compliance, I feel like it should be celebrated. I don't feel like it should be fined. I just feel like there's like a fundamental macroeconomic error in that judgment. That's why I'm like, I don't know. I feel so disappointed by this because I feel like everything has been going smoothly. We have been trending in the right direction. And like you said, there was a time with RE Equity where you thought maybe these things would never be fixed. They would be a blight and an eyesore. I feel like we've remedied that at great cost, great effort, and putting a $9,000 fine down, it's just, it's hard to swallow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you how I feel honestly, but that's a large number for fixing something that's expensive.
Mr. Magistrate, when we said Midway, we were really thinking more 50-50. So
You mean like 7,500?
7,500, yeah. And the other things I won't speak to, we spoke to all of those already as far as our position and our thoughts. We don't believe we're deterring anyone from investing. We desire for investment. We don't have anyone showing us a promise of this being low, affordable housing. But that doesn't, that's not up to us to try and decide. That's not what we decide here. But what we do decide is that I think we had issues, and I could be wrong, and I don't want to reopen another door, but I thought we had life safety issues and things that at one point occupancy, and while it was improving the property, some of us improved because we came and we were involved in the process and found things that required them to comply with the codes and the standards of the city. And so I appreciate what they did. Everyone appreciates that what's been done, but it can't be ignored that we had code violations, and those code violations resulted in fines being imposed. And now we're here to do what we are, not by rule. I mean, not by demand, but through the ability of the city to consider and reduce those liens granted to us through the power of the commission. And so this reduction, you believe is reasonable? We'll accept that perspective of the magistrate, and rather than asking for no reduction, we would ask that it be reduced to midway, or half of what has accrued. As you know, it only accrued to 15 because that's our maximum accrual. If we were like some cities, it may have accrued to far more than that. But in any sense, it accrued to 15. We're willing to agree to or recommend a reduction of $7,500.
Okay. Gentlemen, I think if I and Mr. Mango, correct me if I'm wrong, when there were the issues regarding the windows and stuff, were those units occupied?
The units were occupied. The only instance that I realized that there was a vacancy was after lien fines had been ordered when I went back out to reinspect February 10th of 2023, where Unit 2 was vacant, where I saw the new windows installed without a permit.
Gentlemen, I think the city makes a pretty convincing case for $7,500. Yes, it's a little more than what you are requesting, but it's a lot less than what is currently on the property.
Sir, it's probably double what we would like to pay. I mean, it's essentially it's over $4,000 more than we'd like to pay. We're struggling financially. It is very expensive to do this work. So any leniency, I mean, if we could go to 5,000 even, it would just make a huge difference. So every dollar is important right now. We still have 2 more properties that we're actively fixing. I just ask for your leniency. I mean, I appreciate what everyone has said. I mean, we do want to make the place safer, and obviously windows are a big part of that. So I appreciate everybody's voice. Mr. Domingo especially has been very helpful, but every dollar counts. If you could lower it a little bit lower than that, it'd be a huge help for us.
Well,
That's
I
the last thing I'm
understand,
gonna
but
say.
the
Thank
city
you.
is also making a case that people were occupying and you were collecting rents at a time when the units didn't meet city standards. And so that sort of balances in a way, you have an income that you're receiving that you probably
Right.
shouldn't be receiving.
And I wanted to add to what I said initially when you inquired whether their units were occupied. And those were things that I did observe at most of the properties that are owned, that they do clean outs and move the tenants in around, the violations that are present. Also speaking about Unit 3 at this particular property, initially we couldn't get in because it was vacant. When we did get in, there was no electricity, it was unoccupied, but at the re-inspection in February, it was then tenant occupied. So I've observed, the move-in and installation of tenants for units that were previously vacant during the course of the time that there was a case on the property and violations still present at the properties.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to our defense, it was a total of 6 windows. It wasn't like all the windows weren't opening completely, and they were older windows as well. So there were other windows that were working, prior to that.
Mr. Zarilla, based on what I've heard so far, I think $7,500 is a fair amount under the circumstances.
Okay, we appreciate you guys and hearing our case. Like I said, it would be helpful if we can get it to 5. Again, we are doing 2 other properties right now. It's not considering all the money we've spent already on getting these properties into compliance. But if that's what it is and that's what it has to be, then we're grateful.
Okay, well, it's over $7,500 less than is currently on the property, so hopefully that's helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
And therefore, in case...
I'm sorry if I'm just to interrupt one more thing. Under our normal circumstances, this would still need to be paid within 30 days. And I think that's something y'all probably would want to do so that you're not having the
Wait,
encumbrance.
how are we supposed to come up with $7,500 in 30?
That's what the reduction requires. I mean, if you have some other suggestion, I'm willing to hear it from this end.
If that, we're gonna fight for at least 5,000, because 75 is crazy to pay.
No,
We don't
no.
have that money.
This is my point. If you want more time, we can talk about more time. Even from my perspective, it doesn't change. This is the way it works. Typically, it's 30 days pay or it goes back to the original amount. Where I think I hear you. So this is the only reason I brought it up. That right now you're expressing a period of a hardship, and if you believe you need 90 days, we can maybe stretch that to a 90-day period as opposed to the typical 30-day period.
Yeah, we definitely will need more than 30. If it's at 75, we will need at least 90 days for sure. If it's at 5,000, we could potentially do it in 30 days.
We're okay with the 90-day time period, Mr. Riggio.
Their offer is 5,000 in 30 or the 7,500 in 90.
7,590, that's, in fact, that's obviously, as you've heard, lower than we want to go, and we're willing to give them that time, understanding the circumstance that they've expressed in terms of the economic challenges.
Mr. Zarilla? 7,500 in 90 days?
Yeah, I think that's that's what we're agreeing upon. That's what we'll have to do.
Okay.
And Mr. Cirillo, in the past, we did not have a means for that to be done in payments or whatever. My understanding is now you can go online and actually do it in increments, so it doesn't have to be held for it to be all in one. It's up to you, however y'all elect to make that.
Okay. We paid what on the city website, Daytona Beach.
It's new for me, so I have to turn to Ms. Barnes on that.
I will have to set that up for you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barnes. You've been very helpful as well. We appreciate you. And Mango, thanks a lot.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you again as well.
Therefore, in lien review 4, property at 115 South Grandview Avenue, formerly case RTL 1121-235, RE Equity Investment Group LLC / Wani Polino and Daytona 19 LLC, I hereby order the lien in that case to be reduced to the amount of $7,500, subject to being paid within 90 days.
Being paid in full.
Excuse me?
Paid in full.
Oh, subject to being paid in full within 90 days, or the fine will revert back to the original amount. Okay?
All right, thank you.
And your payments can also be made in installments upon contacting the city for how to do it.
Okay, perfect.
All right. And again, I want to remind you, if it's not within 90 days, it reverts back to what it was, the original, what was that, $15,462.25, probably plus. Does it go back to the original amount, or does it go to an amount plus interest?
No, it'll bounce back to plus interest, wouldn't it?
Correct.
Okay. So, getting it resolved as soon as you can is to your benefit.
Thank you. And we'll wait for that link, Mrs. Barnes.
Yep.
And I said 7,500, right?
Yes.
You did.
Okay. I've got so many numbers on my paper. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a Mr. Riggio. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. We're moving back to the irreparable and irreversible cases. We're going to case number 6, RTL 09-2357, Fabiola E. Lozano, cite for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code, Article 4, Section 4.1A, Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 at 425 North Oleander Avenue.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you state your name, please?
Fabiola Lozano.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Yates.
The case before you is a zoning violation. This case was field generated. The property is zoned RP. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in the zoning district. The violation was first observed August 31st, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property was not actively advertising as of September 5th, 2023. The daily posted rate was $125. The advertisement displayed 6 reviews. The check-in, check-out time were shown as 2 p.m. and 12 p.m. These actions are irreparable and irreversible in nature, and due to the actions of the property owner, the city is requesting a one-time fine of $1,000.
Okay. Mr. Jackson.
Ms. Lozano, I've made a presentation earlier today to the magistrate regarding the city's position concerning making a finding that these violations are irreparable and irreversible in nature as provided by a Florida statute. If that's something you need me to present again for your benefit, I'll do that. If it's something you waive me reading again and accept the magistrate entering that presentation as part of your case as well, then I'm asking you to inform the magistrate that you're willing to waive.
I learned a lot, so you're right. I understand it was an innocent mistake. Originally, I purchased this home for...
So let me say, so you're waiving me reading it again?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let the record reflect that Ms. Lozano is waived Mr. Jackson reading his statement on irreparable and irreversible again, which he read earlier in the preceding case number 1, RTL 08-2336. And that is incorporated into the record.
Thank you.
Is what he read earlier. Okay. Ms. Lozano, it's your turn.
Like I was saying, originally when I purchased this property, it was just for family and friends. I didn't have the intention to make it into a big business, but I didn't want to have the house vacant there, so my nephew moved in the property just to take care of the property, and he gave me the idea. I'm not paying rent, I want to help you make, some money. So he came up with the idea. So as soon as I found out, I took it from the platform. In fact, I had 7 reservations that were coming, and I have to pay penalties for those. So I didn't make money at all.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm aware of.
Ms. Lozano, I don't know if your property can be long-term rented, but that's something to consider. The city does have a long-term rental provided you're in a proper district if you want to make money off the property, but it's short-term rentals that are the problem.
That would be nice, but I'm helping my nephew, and my son is moving in from New Mexico.
Okay.
In 3 months, so he's gonna move in there. So.
All right. Well, therefore, case number 6.
Can I have a suggestion?
Excuse me?
I have a suggestion to do.
Please speak.
Instead of having a letter saying that you have a fine of $1,000 or up to $15,000, it would be nice to have a warning letter first, so we don't have to pay all these fines.
Unfortunately, due to the nature of it being irreparable and irreversible, in other words, cannot be fixed, that's not a possibility.
And if I can say as well...
This is sort of like cutting a tree down. Once it's been cut down, you can't put the tree back together. And that's why they're irreparable and irreversible.
And what I was about to say as well, Ms. Lozano, what ends up potentially happening for us would be to catch not you specifically, but catch me if you can type of situation. People do it until we show up and say stop, and there's no consequence or there's no deterrent.
Gotcha.
So this creates a deterrent just by the first fine.
But it's a beautiful home. It was a fixer-upper. Look at how it came out every time I see it.
Oh, it's lovely.
Very beautiful. When we go there, it's relaxing. away from the city.
All right. Therefore, case number 6, RTL 09-2357, I find the respondent Fabiola E. Lozano to have been in compliance with Article 4, Section 4.1A and Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibit short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals, and such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner and the damage surrounding neighborhood occurs time the violation occurs and cannot be undone as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 425 North Oleander Avenue, and to have subsequently come into compliance on September 5th, 2023, and hereby order the respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $1,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again, and if for any future repeat violation, the respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I have 30 days to pay this?
I'll be in touch with you.
Okay,
After he signs the order, I'll send you a letter.
okay. Thank you.
All right.
Good day.
I've had a request to move up case number 10. I expect that this may be fairly quick, so please bear with us. And, ma'am, what is your name?
I'm the next one, number 7.
Oh, I'm sorry, but,
Just give me no fine.
okay. We're going to go take one out of order. Case number 10, RTL 09-2361, Stoza, Inc. is cited for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code, Article 4, Section 4.1.A, Article 5, Section 5.2.8.3 at 932 Pelican Bay Drive. Is there anyone present on behalf of Stoza, Inc.? Are they on Zoom or? No? And no one in the audience is here on their behalf? Okay.
I know of.
We'll let the record reflect the respondent. And let me just ask, have they been properly notified? Have Stoza Inc. been properly notified of this hearing?
Yes, sir. Kevin posted the property.
Okay. Then, Mr. Yates?
Case before you is a zoning violation. This case was started as a complaint. The property is zoned PDG. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in the zoning district. The violation was first observed August 7, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property is still actively advertising as of today. The daily posted rate is $462, and the advertisement displayed one review. The check-in, check-out time shows 4 p.m. and 11 a.m. I met people on site claiming to be Airbnb guests on August 7, 2023. This is the third time this owner has been in violation of the zoning ordinance, the previous case being RTL 03-2321 on March 28, 2023, and RTL 06-2342 on July 7, 2023. Due to the actions of the property owner, and this being irreparable and irreversible in nature, and the third occurrence of such, the city is requesting a one-time fine of $15,000.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, I expect you will need to read in your statements regarding irreparable and irreversible.
Yes, sir, and this circumstance, I would like to go ahead and put this on the record specific to this case. As it's been expressed by the inspector, this is their prior violations, and I guess this is the third violation that's come before you. And unfortunately, the possibility that there's more on the way. But there will be actions as we review these events as they continue. The city is asking that you make a finding that these violations are irreparable and reversible in nature. We do that because we believe that based on what's provided in Florida Statute 2.09, subsection 1D. The benefits that are gained to the property owner advertising this kind of conduct is prohibited by the code. The effects of holding out property as vacation rental is irreversible. The property is advertised worldwide marketing destinations that draws people from all over the world for principal special events such as Daytona 500 races, Bike Week, world's most famous beach, as well as draws for nearby destinations such as Disney World and Space Coast. Once the properties are advertised, they're never unadvertised. They're able to be forwarded, retweeted, copied, and posted on other sites, and even those who have been prior visitors can sometimes make notification and return. So this is something that can't be undone. The information has long-range effects that lure patrons under contract to participate in unlawful stays in our city with risk of poor health, safety, and welfare due to unregulated or self-regulated vacation accommodations that the patrons enter into at their own risk. One single day of advertising can potentially book a property for the whole year. These promised stays are potentially to the detriment of the patron, and they're definitely to the detriment of the licensed hotels, motels, and lawful vacation rentals that have gone through proper zoning regulation, proper inspections, proper licensing, proper insurance, and proper taxation that's required by law. The transient nature of the rentals limit the means of the enforcement typical to the inspector having to identify it by advertisements. In this case, we did have actual contact with the tenants, the transient tenants. However, in most cases, by the time the code enforcement arrives to properties, the transient patrons typically are gone from the property, or they claim some misleading relationship that are often contradicted by the subsequent advertised reviews. The monetary effect of these unlawful rentals is tax avoidance, inadequate insurance coverage, and unfair business competition against the lawful accommodations businesses and the lawful vacation rentals. The community effect is that transient business use within unauthorized residential neighborhoods affect density, parking, noise, and safety. They affect the peaceful enjoyment expected in residential neighborhoods and diverge from traditional and reliable residential norms. There has been a demand from the business community to our city commission, which has led to a request for a strong deterrent to those that are raking in profits, avoiding state and local taxes, avoiding zoning requirements, and regulatory controls. We have all seen rentals going for amounts as much as several $1,000s a week, and we realize substantial fines are the only deterrent tool available. By the time we arrive and say stop, the beneficial gains are already realized. State law that was adopted by the city defines vacation rentals to include advertising for transient guests. Therefore, the city requests a finding that these violations are irreparable or reversible in nature as provided by Florida statute. In this situation, and in all situations, we look to the gravity of the violation, the efforts of the respondent to come into compliance, and the history of the violation, and based on all of those factors, the maximum fine that can be imposed, $15,000 per occurrence, and we ask that that fine be imposed in this case. And nothing further, Magistrate.
Okay. Mr. Yates, do you have anything further?
No, sir.
Okay, and the respondent is not present. This is a third violation, as you stated. The first violation, I recall the respondent was present
Yes.
and argued the case, and finding was made against them. The second one, the respondent did not appear.
Okay.
And
We do have a witness that will, or that would like to be heard
Yes,
on behalf of the neighborhood.
Hi. Stacy Cantu, Daytona Beach Commissioner, also a resident of Pelican Bay for 25 years. This house is the one I get complaints every single.
Just need to swear you in.
Oh,
please.
I'm
You have
sorry.
to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or
My
affirm?
left hand.
It does matter.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Stacy Cantu, Daytona Beach Commissioner, Zone 4, resident Pelican Bay for 25 years. This house, I receive so many complaints daily on this house. I think he is just completely ignoring our CRA rules as well. He's being fined $1,000 a day, and I probably receive about 3 to 4 emails a day, not including the calls. And we do have the live camera going up to see how he gets through the gated community. And there is a list being logged as well, which I'll be sending over to our city attorney. We have pictures of every single week, the different guests coming in, logging with the live camera. But I would appreciate if we can get the max fine for this as well, because it's nonstop. We have music blaring to 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the morning. And that's about all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And I assure you, we will utilize all the tools of law to get this to cease.
As I recall, the maximum fine was instituted on the first violation.
I believe the first violation was not.
Not the first, but the second.
The second?
Yeah, we gave him $1,000. We gave him a break on the
$1,000 on the
first
first one?
I believe
Okay.
so.
I believe he.
Then it was a
responded
maximum on the
timely.
second. And so I'm going to assess the maximum fine on this one. That was, this is sort of the poster child of why there is a problem with short-term rentals. I will say that I have had less and less come forward with neighborhood issues, because, and that's to some extent what I understood that this ordinance was supposed to was dealing with, and people who were turning a neighborhood into a kind of like a hotel, motel, there were people, because there's a lot of guests and people, transients in this area, and so.
And the reports have included that the noise and the activity is being a problem as well.
Yeah.
Parties.
So therefore, in case number 10, RTL 092361, for the property, the respondent being Stoza Inc., I find the respondent to have been in non-compliance of Article 4, Section 4.1A, and Article 5, Section 5.2.A.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibit short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals, and such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner and the damage to the surrounding neighborhood occurs at the time the violation occurs and cannot be undone, as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 932 Pelican Bay Drive and is still not in compliance as of this hearing, and hereby order that respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $15,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again. And if for any future repeat violation, a respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything further on that matter?
Nothing further, Mr.
Okay.
Magistrate. Thank you.
We'll go back to the normal agenda. Case number 7, RTL 09-2358, Rachel Ray Rand, cite for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code Article 4, Section 4.1A, Article 5, Section 5.2.A.2 at 1030 Alice Drive. Okay.
You state your name?
Yep, my name is Rachel Rands.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Yates.
The case before you is a zoning violation. This case was field generated. The property is zoned RP. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in this zoning district. The violation was first observed August 31st, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property was not actively advertising as of September 6, 2023. The daily posted rate was $392, and it displayed 24 reviews. The check-in check-out time were shown as 3 p.m. and 11 a.m. Due to the actions of the property owner and this action being irreparable and irreversible, we are asking for a one-time fine of $1,000.
Okay.
Ms. Rand,
Yes,
I think you've heard the presentation twice.
just a couple times. Yes, I waived that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and let the record reflect that Ms. Rand has waived Mr. Jackson presenting again his presentation on irreversible and irreparable, and that his presentation as made in case number 1, RTL 08-2336, is hereby incorporated into the record. All right. Anything further, Mr. Jackson or Mr. Yates?
Nothing further from me.
Ms. Rands, it's your opportunity to state what you would like to state regarding this matter.
Yeah, so I bought this property about a year ago. When I'm from Wisconsin originally, so I came down visiting and I found a church that I just fell in love with here. My first impression of Daytona was, wow, this place is like the most rundown city I've ever seen in my life. Like, there's a lot bigger issues at hand, and I'm sure you guys know, I mean, go to Beachside. There's a lot of war zones, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I like opportunity, and I was like, well, this place has a lot of opportunity. What can I do to make this place better? So bought this place, did a lot of remodels, and as you heard from the last guys, it's not as easy as maybe it sounds. I'm single, and I did it all on my own. Very proud to say that. It was a total mission, but I was able to do it on my own, and the people around in the community were so happy that finally they got somebody that cared about the property. And I do live there. I travel quite a bit for work, so I was like, what can I do to help with the costs of this property? As you guys know, everything has raised, doubled, tripled. It's insane. And I know you don't have, I guess you can't just make laws and change them, but I would ask that you guys are very, very understanding and lenient, because it is hard. And a lot of times we get into these routines where you guys are in this room and it's like, this is what I'm doing, $5,000 fine here, $10,000 fine here, $15,000 fine here. It's hard, guys. It's really hard. The average American makes only $50,000 a year, $50,000, and they have families. So I know, like, you guys aren't you're the ones just enforcing the law, but I ask that you have grace upon those people, because people are actually starving. We're in a silent recession, and it's only going to get worse. You're going to see a lot more homelessness here. You're going to see a lot more war zone areas here, and these houses aren't even nice houses. I mean, they're kind of trash, to be honest. You drive down in South Daytona, you drive down even Beachside, it's not pretty. We have a way bigger problem here than this, and I'm so sorry that you guys have to deal with the people who are making the Airbnb population so bad. I mean, the last people, they're a fantastic example. And I would almost say, you know, what can we do to make it so it's like a week rental or a month rental? Because hotels are extremely expensive and families can't afford to come for a week. And we really need the tourism here. We really need it, and they're not willing to pay what the crappy beach hotels. I mean, would you guys want to actually really stay beachside? Like, let's be real. Those places are ugly. They're really, really trashed. So that's my perspective on it. I understand I did violate, understand the whole side of everything, and I know that there's nothing you guys can do, but I sympathize with the people who literally are struggling to feed themselves. There's, like, my friend back there who he's really struggling, and his fine of $4,000, that's unacceptable to me. I mean, you have to think about the mortgage. And if for most people, like, who are making these decisions, they're like, $5,000 out the door, whatever. But it's not like that for everyone. I mean, if you think about $3,000 after taxes, that's what you have to feed your family with. That's what you have to pay your mortgage on, your car insurance, your homeowner's insurance. And now we have taxes that are like tripled the amount when I bought the property. Plus, I bought the property from someone who said, yeah, the realtor said, absolutely, this is an Airbnb friendly neighborhood. So, of course, I should have taken that into my own hands and done the research and whatnot. But I do want to just reiterate that we've got a way bigger problem in Daytona than this. And I don't know what pull you guys have on laws and regulations and things like that, but we need more small investors here. We have huge problems. We have really big problems. And I would love to be one of those people to come in here and buy 50 properties and be a really good owner. But after seeing what you guys, I mean, you gave those guys fines of like $9,000 or $7,000, whatever that was. And I work for a trucking company who hauls windows for a living. I can tell you right now, lead times for windows are 6 months. 6 months. And people, like, any customized windows, 6 months at the shortest. So it sucks, guys. It really, really does. So I just ask, I know you're going to do what you got to do, but I ask leniency. And if you have any pull with any of the lawmakers, if we can revisit things, you can contact me. I'd be happy to be a supporter of that in whatever direction it needs to go. But we need more people like me and like him that are doing this, because there's not properties that are livable around here. They're trash. And that's saying it nicely. So that's my side. I also think Kevin was really nice to work with. Like, I just called him and he was really available. So commend him for being available. And actually, when I called, everyone was just super friendly. So I really do appreciate that. But understand I violated, and that's totally fine. But I really hope that you guys see this perspective, and maybe this can go somewhere else, and let me know what I can do to make a change there too. Obviously, I'm new here, so don't know who to talk to or whatnot, but we got way bigger problems than this. So there you go.
Thank you. Anything further?
No.
One thing I'd like to mention, and that is that the fines are the way they are because the nightly rentals on these properties sometimes are $500 a night, and weekly rentals can be in the thousands. Unfortunately, there may be different perspectives as that goes, because the person who's renting the place out at $10 a night is going to be deterred by one fine, but the person who is renting out at $1,000 a night is going to think of it as pocket change, a cost of doing business, if they get fined. And they're actually, to some extent, operating almost like mini motels. And the horror stories that come out of the neighborhoods, and we have adopted a rule. I think Mr. Jackson, I don't know, he usually says something about this, but when I initially started, the initial fine was $15,000. And I have tried to reduce that to reflect that the people, especially with respect to people such as yourself who respond quickly. And I am also have to deal with the fact that I need to treat similarly situated individuals the same way. A violation of the code in one part of Daytona should be treated the same way as in another part of Daytona. And so the fine has been steadily reduced with respect to people who have immediately shown a willingness to comply, and when this first started, you would have been assessed a fine of $15,000. It's down to 1,000, but I still deal with a fair number of people where that may very well be borderline. They may very well think that, well, I got caught this time, I can come back and do this again, and if I rent for 10 nights, I'll, $100 a night, I got $1,000. And if I rent for 20, I got my mortgage payment paid too. And the idea is to deter the behavior, not to allow people to circumvent it. So I am sort of stuck with the $1,000 penalty. As much as I understand your argument, that is what has evolved. And that way, we've had relatively few repeat cases by using a graded system where the people who are truly going to violate get hit with a larger fine. But if it's too small, I'm afraid that the monetary, the economic incentive is going to end up coming into play, and we're going to have people coming back. And as I've said, I've used a guidance that was provided by the Department of Justice dealing with these type of economic violations, and this is the general guidance that has been provided. So, Ms. Rands, I'm stuck with this $1,000.
Yeah.
I understand your argument, but
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know if you can make it on a scale or something, because, I mean, for me, I do live there. That's my only home. So it's kind of strange that we're like, okay, we can have guests, and we're there, we're monitoring it, we're not having crazy parties, you know what I mean? Like, I have guests that come through, or I did, and I live there.
as I said earlier today, that is something that is outside the authority of myself
Sure.
or these
Right.
folks to make changes to. That's a city commission issue.
So city
And-
commissions is who I would need to speak to about that?
That's correct. But unfortunately, there is also a state law that complicates what city commissions can do. And so it kind of hamstrings them from making changes. And, you know, that's something that if you want to talk with somebody, you really need to talk with a state representative or a state senator. Somebody who is up in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
And so it's been going on for what, years now?
Yeah, it's been several years.
I think the
Maybe, I don't know.
statute was like 2011.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah, ours is,
2012.
yeah,
right.
2011 or something like
I think
that.
it went in effect 2012.
And so, and I know there has been a lot of people who have said things, but nothing has changed.
Yeah. Well, I know too. I saw those things, and it's just very frustrating, obviously. You know, it's very hard for people to get farther in life if they have no opportunity. And when they try to, then I'm not making thousands and thousands, believe it or not. Like, a lot of the money that goes is in fees, is in repair. Actually, all the repairs on my house, I haven't even paid for all of those. I mean, the house is so much better than it was trashed. It was absolutely trashed, and it was a burden to the neighborhood. So it makes it such a struggle to want to buy more. Like, I already started buying stuff for my next property, and now I'm like, get me out of here. What am I gonna, I mean, you can have long-term rentals, and I do have one in Texas, and it's an absolute disaster because I don't have eyes inside the property. Like, these guys that are doing that, kudos to them, because it sucks. You don't make that much money. I make maybe $200 a month. What does that get? The repair for the next time they break something, because it probably will be next month that they break something. So it's just a really crappy situation for people who are trying to make a little more money, because it's tough right now, really tough. So totally understand your side, guys. I think thanks for hearing me out. I know you can't do much, but I just ask that you have grace. And when you hear stories, just know that it's really hard. I've been asking to get my palm trees trimmed in the backyard for 3 weeks now. It's across the board. You can't get good workers. You can't do anything without paying an arm and a leg. So I guess just have grace when you listen to other cases of renters or people who are doing flips and stuff, because it's ridiculous. I don't want to do another one.
Well, that's the unfortunate situation we're in.
Yep.
So, in case number 7, RTL 09-2358, I find the respondent, Rachel Ray Rands, to have been in noncompliance of Article 4, Section 4.1.a and Article 5, Section 5.2.a.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibits short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals, and that such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner and the damage to the surrounding neighborhood occurs at the time the violation occurs and cannot be undone as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 1030 Alice Drive, subsequently come into compliance on September 6, 2023, and hereby order the respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $1,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again, and that for any future repeat violation, a respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone on Zoom for either of the other two?
I think we do for case 8.
For which one?
Case 8, I believe, has a Zoom.
Case 8? Okay. Then we'll move on order. Case number 8, RTL 09-2359, Majestic Mountain Investments, LLC, cited for failure to correct violations of the Land Development Code, Article 4, Section 4.1.a, Article 5, Section 5.2.a.2 at 1401 South Palmetto Avenue, number 517. And we have a respondent present.
Yes, ma'am. Could you state your name, please? Cannot hear you.
Ma'am, we can't hear you.
Still can't hear you.
He's trying. Find it. Okay, come on.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Can you hear me, ma?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Could you state your name, please?
Lee Tan.
And raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we want to know her relationship to
Majestic Mountain Investments, LLC.
Sorry, Tony.
What is your relationship?
I'm the owner. I'm the only owner.
Okay, you're the owner. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Yates is code inspector who will present the city's case.
The case before you is a zoning violation. This case was started as a complaint. The property is zoned MFR 40. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in the zoning district. The violation was first observed August 25th, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property is still actively advertising as of today. The daily posted rate on the advertisement is $111. It displayed 0 reviews. The advertised rules show a check-in, check-out time of 4 p.m. and 10 a.m. On 8/25/23, I met people on site claiming to be Airbnb guests. The owner sent me an email on September 7th, 2023, stating the rental had been removed. However, as I've said, it had not. Due to the nature of these actions and the continual violations, and these being irreparable and irreversible, the city is requesting a one-time fine of $15,000.
Ms. Tan, it's your time.
That is not correct. Because as soon as I received the violations, I called my property manager and it's off. The review already off because I have proof that in communication with my property manager to take it off. And then I already put the property for sale right now at this moment. It's a listing. Because when I bought this property, I was under the bylaw by the HOA saying I can rent it out for 2 weeks minimum. And the realtor was telling me the same thing. So I have been in communicating with Mr. Yates, and I complied right away as soon as I even received the notice. I can show you all the communication what I have with the property manager to request to take it off the market. I don't know how she think it's still on right now.
Mr.
Let me go pull it up right now. I can show you.
I'll show him.
That is already all blocked, effective on September 7th.
Ms. Tan needs to see anything you show me, so.
Well, I think she's
You
looking as well.
you got the camera if they can,
Yeah,
you might
See
have,
that?
Joe might have to,
Oh, there we go.
say-
You
yeah,
got
there
it.
you go.
Hold it up a little. There you go.
let me go pull that in on my listing. It should be on active because I already asked the property manager to take it off on the 7th,
What is that?
which is on my calendar, it's already been blocked.
We can speak to them.
See,
The advertisement is still active, as we've said, and as I've showed you, unfortunately.
Okay.
see this is re-signed, Your Honor.
We can't see your
The
screen, ma'am.
Palmetto. I mean, I can email you the screenshot and communications on what I have with the property manager. I'm not in compliance and not
And to
responding
be
after
clear,
I find
we
out.
still receive complaints that she continued to rent during that period. I was not able to find anyone again, but we did continue to receive reports that she continued to have guests.
Ms. Tan, ultimately, you are responsible. If your property manager is not following your direction, that is your problem.
Yeah,
and
but I
don't
have
take,
proof in communication that they have done it. I can send all the screenshot of the communications with them.
Mr. Yates, what you showed me, is that active today?
Yes, it's active right this second.
Oh, well then. While we're in a break, Mr. Jackson, do you have something that you wanted to say?
Yes, is it Ms. Tan?
Yes.
Ma'am, I've presented a couple of times today, a presentation to the magistrate asking him to make a determination that these violations are irreparable and irreversible in nature. Were you able to hear those presentations?
Yes.
Okay, is that something you need me to read again into the record, or would you adopt it, allow the magistrate to adopt it in the record of this case from the prior reading?
I can waive it.
Okay.
Okay. Then please let the record reflect that Ms. Tan has waived Mr. Jackson reading his presentation regarding irreparable and irreversible that was earlier made in case number 1, RTL 08-2336, and I believe it was subsequently you've again, and that his presentation will be incorporated into the record as relates to irreparable and irreversible.
I mean, I'm checking all the other listing is already been off. I don't know why they didn't take it out of the Airbnb. If you notice, you don't even have any booking on the Airbnb, period. I can show you my calendar. I mean, I don't have that many review, Your Honor. I mean, I only have one. You know, if you wanted to check booking.com, there's nothing in there. FRBO, there's nothing in there. See, only one review.
Mr. Yates, what was the online platform that you showed me that showed it being active today?
Airbnb, as she just said, is still active. I mean, she does agree, you do agree that it is still active, correct?
Well, I noticed that, but that's not my fault.
Oh, I
I
understand,
have
ma'am.
requested, I can show you
Ma'am,
email
ma'am,
to my
just,
property.
ma'am, just
my
one sec,
prop-
ma'am, just 1 second. Can you please just answer? So you do admit that it is active right now, right?
Let me go check if you can even book it, okay?
That's not what I'm asking, ma'am. Is it active? Yes or no? Is it, you agree
Right
it's on
now
right
it
now?
is, but if you look at the
Thank you.
calendar, you can't even book it because it's been blocked. Can you try to check if you block it? It's been blocked
Unfortunately,
forever.
that wouldn't make a difference. It's an advertisement alone, so as long as the advertisement's up, it's still violating. And as I said, this is one that started as a complaint. We continue to get complaints through this whole duration that she continued to rent. There's no indication that she stopped renting at any point, and there's no indication that she stopped renting today.
Mr. Yates, can you go into more detail regarding the complaints?
Yes. So this started as an initial complaint. We got it, I believe it was on August 23rd. I went out on the 25th. There were people on site. Last week, it was Wednesday, I got another call from the property manager to say that they're continuing to get complaints of guests there. I did go the next day. I didn't locate guests, but the complaints have continued.
Okay, when you say the property, I'm sorry if I may, okay.
Yeah.
You say the property manager, what do you mean the property manager? Who are you referring to?
Give me 1 second.
And I don't need a name, I'm just saying, what's
a
property of
homeowners
the association?
Yes, there's a homeowners association and the Grand Preserve, and she's the one that's their secretary and just handles the day-to-day operations like billings and stuff like that.
Let me get
Okay, now, ma'am, if I could just have a moment. Now, Ms. Tannis mentioned that she's instructed the property manager. She talking about the same property manager?
No, she's talking about Evolve Property Management, which is one of the largest property management firms in the country. I believe they manage somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 or 10,000 Airbnbs. So they do certainly know their business. And I can't speak to any communication she's had with them. I can only speak to communication that we've had where we've requested her to remove it.
I mean, okay, can I speak now? The
Please
the
do.
lady that was HOA, from the very beginning, when I bought the property, she's already have a personality conflict. I don't know what it is. She's always don't like me, okay? Originally, I bought the property for me to live on there for winter. Because of the conflict that I had, so I like literally, I just rented out long term. Even then, she gave me a hard time with the tenant that was living in that property. So he moved out because of her. And like literally, I was trying, I did not know that it was not allowed as a short-term rental. So as soon as I got a notice, I can send you the communication that I have with the property manager. And I can show you also, I put it for sale, effective. It's active right now. And it's not rented. Mr. Yates did not go and knock in that the condo just listening to her. She doesn't like me. I'm the only one in that condominium that was turned in. I'm not the only one that's renting it. The bylaw still showing is allowed for short-term rental, Your Honor, in that HOA.
Ms. Tan, the bylaws of the condominium don't matter here.
Well,
We're
I
dealing
know-
with city code.
I know, but I did not understand what the city code. I mean, until Mr. Yates get a hold of me. I mean, I don't mind to pay $1,000 because that's what Mr. Yates was telling me. I'm in compliance. I mean, I will call the property manager. I don't know why they're still showing active, but if you can click in that thing, I can show you my calendar. I'm in compliance on September 7th, period. I can show you all my communication with my property manager. I can show you my calendar. I can do a screenshot. I'm not being defiant, Your Honor. I mean, I can show you the property for market right now. I'm trying to sell the condo because I'm tired of dealing with her, literally.
Ms. Tan, my understanding, based on the testimony of Mr. Yates, is that your property manager, and I'm not talking about the property manager of your association, I'm talking about a real estate type manager,
Yes.
is with a firm that handles thousands of Airbnb, and you're telling me that he does not know how to take it off the platform. You're telling me that you informed him and that he has left it on. It's on as of today, and you saw that.
I can show you all the other booking. It's already been canceled. It's an employee error, Your Honor. It's an employee error. I swear, I can give you communication that I have called.
I have never seen a situation where it's either on or it's off. And if it's an employee error from his standpoint, then that he should have known that. All he had to do was take a look. It's on his computer, and if it's still there, then he hasn't been successful in getting it removed.
But they're not listing in only one listing. They're listing it on like 4 or 5 other platforms. So the person that was doing it obviously not doing it, an error. I mean, don't tell me that we can never make an error. I mean, I can show you all my other evidence that I've been in compliance. Why do I put it on the market right now? It's vacant right now. If Mr. Yed would have checked and talked to the person after I responded to his thing, she was not gonna meet anybody. Because they have no booking since after I have that letter. I mean, I can have the neighbor that helping me clean can testify for that, if you don't believe me. This is the first violation that I ever have in this city. I mean, I'm so frustrated because they keep raising the HOA. Like, if I'm wanted to keep it as a long term, it's not gonna be even profitable. That's why I have to sell the property.
That's your goal.
It's the same frustration that the other lady previously had. I mean,
Ms. Tan, the burden falls on you to bring the property into compliance.
I am in
Non-compliance is having an advertisement posted on an online website. You were notified earlier. What date was she notified?
August 25th.
You were notified August 25th, and we are now on September 26th. The advertisement is still there. You can pull it up on your computer. Your property manager could pull it up on his computer. He could raise issues with Airbnb and say, why is it still here? And so I'm just not.
I mean,
I'm not buying
it. You don't believe me? I mean,
ma'am, I'm not. You've made your case that you asked somebody to do it and they didn't do it, and yet it's still there. You're ultimately responsible for what these people do, and you, just as you saw right now, could check it in an instant.
I did not realize it's still active. I mean, I can show you all the other booking is already, other platform is already inactive. Can I show you that?
I'm not concerned about the ones that are inactive. Those are the ones that, if there are any, I don't know, but if there are, then those are ones in which you came into compliance on. So those are you addressed, but it's the fact that you still have Airbnb, which is probably the one that I know from at least my limited experience here is the one I see most often, besides the other one, VRBO. So having it on one of the more prominent websites is not taking down the advertisement. And in Daytona, the code says, and Mr. Jackson, maybe you can elucidate us on the code as it relates to what constitutes holding out something for rent or for rent? This,
Yes, it actually has several areas of the code. That's why I typically hand it out. It's based upon the definitions as we look into Article 5, which is the reference for these violations. But in Section 5.2 of the principal uses, in the note, it says the other accommodation use includes all uses regulated by the prior LDC as accommodations, other hotels, motels, rooming houses, bed and breakfast facilities, or RV parks, etc. Rental units intended to be used by transient persons or tourists for overnight or short-term lodging. This use thus includes and continues to include vacation rentals as defined under Florida Statute 509-242 and grandfathered from the 2011 amendments, 2011 amendments of, that's 2011, Florida Statute 509.037, subsection 7, that preempts local government regulations of vacation rentals in accordance with the provisions of that statute. So when we go to the provisions of that statute, under 509.013 definitions, transient public lodging establishments means dwellings, but those which is advertised or held out to the public as a place regularly rented to guests. Under 509.242 public lodging establishment classifications, vacation rentals, subsections 1C, says a vacation rental is any unit or group of units in a condo or cooperative or any individually or collectively owned single-family, two-family, three-family, or four-family house or dwelling unit that is also a transient public lodging establishment. So again, we're defining transient lodging establishment, and as part of that definition of transient lodging establishment, it includes those which are advertised or held out to the public as a place that is regularly rented to guests. And in that sense, it's an adoption of that statute.
okay.
Can I speak? I just emailed the proof of my email to the property manager on the 7th after I received the notice right away the same day to Kevin, Mr. Yates.
I mean, I don't
That's
think.
proof that I've been in compliance. I'm really right now upset at the property manager for not doing what they're asking to do. I did follow up with the phone call also. They assured me they already did.
Ms. Tan, the evidence that is before me is that the advertisement for this unit still is on Airbnb. Okay?
If I would
Your duty is, if you told your property manager to take it down, was to confirm that that occurred. That has not occurred. His duty, if in fact he did it, was to confirm that it had been taken down. He apparently didn't do that. Now, I'm supposed to distinguish between an active rental advertisement and one that is supposedly inactive, and I thought that almost all of them, when they're posted on Airbnb, they're active. That's the whole point. They're holding out. It's an advertisement to the world that this unit is available for rent, as Mr. Jackson has stated.
But if you try to click it, the calendar's already been blocked. Somebody's not doing their job. I mean, can I get a break here? I can't afford $5,000. Look at the rate that I'm putting. Only $100. And I only had one reservation.
Just to clarify, what she's saying is that when it's inactive is that you can't automatically book dates. You can still send requests for dates through it right now, but you couldn't automatically with one click book a date, but you can still request dates.
So you can circumvent.
Yes, even though, right, you just can't do an automatic booking, but they could request dates from her right now from that website, and then she could accept the booking.
But I don't manage it. The Evolve is the one that's managing it. If you would have called, they would already said it's inactive. I can show you the listing that Evolve had is these things have been resigned.
Mr. Magistrate, not only do we have continued advertising, but we have, granted it's hearsay, but we have a person who had made notification to our inspector that it was continually rented, that it was rented prior, and once he was on notice that it continued to be rented.
Okay.
So you're not even taking my word and proof that I have sent you that I've been trying the compliance.
The city doesn't dispute that you sent a request to your property manager. We don't dispute that.
I can show you also that she said it's been resigned on from my listing though.
Ma'am, my job is to weigh the evidence, the testimony and the evidence before me. And I can only come to one conclusion, and that this property has been in violation of the code. So therefore, I'm ready to issue my order. In case number 7, RTL, do you have anything further to add that is not argumentative? Do you have anything further evidence or anything of that nature? The back and forth is just argumentative, and I've heard both sides fully, I think.
Well, I can prove that I have in compliance, I email and I have proof that it's been resigned. And, you know, my only fault is I did not double check their work.
Okay.
This is case number 8.
I mean, is there any way that I can, you know, get a break? Because this is the first violation that I have instead of $5,000.
No, ma'am,
15.
It was $15,000, not 5.
$15,000 for a first violation? This is the first violation.
Ma'am, this was what was put in place to bring an end to the short-term rentals. And this is the allowed by, Mr. Jackson, correct me if I'm wrong on this, allowed by the Chapter 169 for irreparable and...
Chapter 162, yes.
162, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. That's what's the amount allowed, maximum amount, and that's what we request in the circumstance based upon the time period and the added reports.
Okay. So I'm...
I can't afford it. I can't really afford it. How am I gonna pay for it?
Ma'am,
this is the first violation.
The evidence that has been brought before me is that there is still an advertisement on Airbnb, that there have been complaints made as to short-term rentals of that property, and I understand I understand your arguments, but I have to weigh the evidence, and therefore I'm ready to make my decision, and therefore...
I mean, there's no break at all? I mean, this is my first violation. I mean, I comply. I provided proof that I have been in compliance, and you know, the only thing is just the listing. It's because the employee is not doing what they're supposed to do. Please give me a break.
Ma'am,
how am I gonna afford it? I mean, it's just like, you know, you're trying to make a little bit extra money, and it just is like everybody attacking you. I mean, you know, if you can just give me a chance to call the Evolve right now and you guys can listen to what's going on, so they can confirm that I already asked them to have it off the listing on the 7th.
Ma'am, that is between you and them. You have a property manager, according to your testimony, who did not follow the directions you gave them.
Yeah, but
that may be his problem. I don't know.
I can't even afford it.
But you are ultimately responsible at this point. So therefore, in case number 8, RTL 09-2359, I find the respondent, Majestic Mountain Investments, LLC, to have been in noncompliance of Article 4, Section 4.1.a, and Article 5, Section 5.2.a.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibit short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals, and and that, where was I? Which brochure? And that such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner and the damage to the surrounding neighborhood occurs at the time the violation occurs and cannot be undone as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 1401 South Palmetto Avenue, number 517, and to a subsequent, and is still in non-compliance, and hereby order that respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $15,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again, and that for any future repeat violation, a respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes.
Oh my God. I can't get a break, can I?
Thank you.
I'll call you fault right now. Thank you for the welcoming to Daytona Beach.
Are we still on? I'm moving on to the next item on the agenda. Or whatever. The next item on the agenda is number 6, miscellaneous business. Is there any miscellaneous business?
Oh, did we
No,
go number 9?
we have case
321
number 9.
Oh, I'm
review?
sorry, number 9. Okay,
I haven't heard.
okay, I was wrote on that one. Okay, the next item on the agenda is case number 9, RTL 09-2360, George B. Lawrence, cited for failure to correct violations of Land Development Code, Article 4, Section 4.1.a, Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 at 321 Seaview Avenue.
All right, the case before you is a zoning violation. This case was a complaint. The property is zoned SFR 5. Other accommodations known as short-term rentals are not permitted in this zoning district. The violation was first observed September 5th, 2023, and they were notified the same day. The property is still actively advertising as of today. The daily rate posted on the advertisement was $290. The advertisement displayed 8 reviews. The check-in, check-out time were shown as 4 p.m. and 12 a.m. Due to the actions of the property owner and the irreparable, irreversible nature of the violation, the city is requesting a one-time fine of $15,000.
Okay,
And I just checked, it's still up as of this moment.
okay. Could you repeat those dates again, please?
Yeah. They were first notified September 5th, 2023, and it was observed the same day.
Okay. And they're still in non-compliance?
Correct, they're still actively advertising.
Okay, do we have a respondent here on behalf of Mr. Lawrence?
No.
No,
Is there anyone on Zoom for Mr.
I've
Lawrence?
never heard anything from him.
We do have service.
Yes, and Kevin posted it on the 13th of September.
It was served and posted.
It was.
I mean, you have a green card as well?
We don't get
And there's
green cards anymore.
pictures of the posting
Yeah.
in there.
Okay, but they're always in my person.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
In the absence of this respondent, I feel it necessary to go ahead and make a presentation again for the city's position regarding irreparable or reversible. The nature of these violations, as we've said before, are irreparable and irreversible in nature as provided under Chapter 162.09, subsection 1D. It's because of these beneficial gains to the property owner that's being advertised. And it's conduct that is prohibited by our code. And the property is advertised worldwide, marketing destinations that draws people from all over the world for principal special events that we have, such as Daytona 500 races and Bike Week and Spring Break, world's most famous beach, as well as the nearby destinations of Disney and Space Coast. These these properties, once they're advertised, they can't be unadvertised. the information has a long-range effect. It lures patrons under contract to participate in unlawful stays in our city with the risk of poor health, safety, and welfare due to unregulated or self-regulated vacation accommodations that the patrons enter at their own risk. The transient nature of these rentals limit the means of the enforcement, typically to us having to identify by the advertisement. By the time our inspectors arrive to properties, these types of properties, the transient patrons typically are gone from the property, or they claim some misleading relationship that are often contradicted by the reviews that are subsequently seen on the advertiser's site. The one single day of the advertisement can book a property for a whole year, and these promised stays can be to the detriment of a patron, and they're definitely to the detriment of the licensed hotels, motels, lawful vacation rentals that have gone through proper zoning regulations, proper inspections, proper licensing, proper insurance, and proper taxation that's required by law. The monetary effect of these unlawful rentals is tax avoidance, inadequate insurance coverage, and unfair business competition against lawful accommodations businesses and lawful vacation rentals. The community effect is that transient business use within unauthorized residential neighborhoods affect density, parking, noise, and safety. They affect the peaceful enjoyment expected in residential neighborhoods, and they diverge from traditional and reliable residential norms. From the demand of our business community, our commission has asked for strong deterrence to those that are raking in these profits and avoiding zoning requirements and regulatory controls and taxes. We have all seen rentals going for as much as several $1,000s a week and realize substantial fines are the only deterrent tool available. By the time we arrive and say stop, the beneficial gains are already realized. And so the state has adopted by the city has adopted the state's definitions through our code of the vacation rentals to include advertising for transient guests. Therefore, the city requests a finding that these violations be deemed irreparable or irreversible in nature as provided by statute. And based on the information provided, the evidence presented, this property remains in noncompliance, and we're asking for the maximum fine of $15,000. This is based upon the gravity of the violation, the efforts of the respondent, and the history of this property. Nothing further.
Okay. Mr. Yates, do you have anything further?
No, sir.
Okay, well, the respondent's not present, and the evidence and testimony which I've heard indicates that there's a violation, and so therefore I'm ready to make a ruling regarding this in case number 9, RTL 09-2360. I find the respondent, George B. Lawrence, to have been in noncompliance with Article 4, Section 4.1.a and Article 5, Section 5.2.8.2 of the Land Development Code, which prohibits short-term rentals in zoning districts not zoned for short-term rentals. And such violations are irreparable and irreversible because the improper benefit obtained by the owner and the damage to the surrounding neighborhood occurs at the time the violation occurs and cannot be undone as provided for by Section 162.091D Florida statutes for the property at 321 Seaview Avenue, and to have subsequently come into as of this date has not come into compliance, and hereby order that respondent shall pay a fine in the amount of $15,000 and not violate that section of the Land Development Code again. And if for any future repeat violation, the respondent may be placed on a subsequent agenda for a hearing before the special magistrate for consideration of a fine of up to $15,000 for each occurrence as per Chapter 162 Florida statutes. Okay. I believe we have now completed all of the cases that were on the agenda. And we move to,
Talk about what?
Are we having future meetings?
Yeah, we still have October, but we are not having November or December. And I've already provided you with the 2024 calendar dates. So for the next meeting, you should be able to, if you order next meeting.
okay,
And just since we're still on record, I just want to reemphasize that we're not having, we will be having an October meeting, but we are not having a November or December meeting, is my understanding.
okay.
Correct.
Will we start hearing rental code violations again?
I hope so.
People who have not brought their
We
rental properties
definitely,
up to snuff or obtained licenses and,
yeah, we definitely have them. As you know, we have a new software system, and the second issue is that we entered into the renewal period. So we do have a lot of inspections, biennial inspections that they're conducting. As a matter of fact, LaWanda so far has done like 800 inspections this year. And Carl, having started 3 months into the year, has done over 500. So we definitely are out there working to try to, we missed COVID, we missed the COVID year, so that put us back a little bit too. So we are doing a good job catching up.
okay.
Very good.
Any further miscellaneous business? Therefore, it being 12:39, I hereby call this session of the Special Magistrate proceeding to be adjourned.